Yo, legends! Welcome to Fanfiction Legend. Grab your headphones because today's story is about to hit different. Disclaimer: I do not claim ownership of this story. All rights belong to the original creators. Note: I'm constantly tweaking the settings to make it as immersive as possible. Marvel, the Kryptonian who ate the multiverse. Chapter 21: The Road Ahead. Skipable. After Tony asked the question, he was worried that Leon would be disgusted, so he even took the initiative to make a joke. For example, do you really become Superman to save the world and drag all the nuclear bombs into outer space to destroy them? Or find a few more girlfriends to pass on your powerful superhuman genes? Come on, tell me. You don't look confused at all. You must have your own ideas. Come and satisfy my curiosity. Tony patiently and kindly persuaded. Anyway, if I had this ability, I would date 10 cover girls in one night, then fly out of the Earth and into the solar system to see if there are any aliens or something. It would be best if I could meet a few more alien beauties. Leon burst out laughing. This was indeed what Tony would do. I'm afraid there are no beauties on alien planets. Only alien facehuggers are waiting for you. He also joined in the joke. I'm different from you. I don't have that many ideas. I'll just live the same way I lived before. I used to be the second young master of Stark Group. I met smiling faces everywhere I went, and the whole world showed me kindness. I am stronger now, but these things will not change. I have absolutely no reason to do bad things, right? Yes, that's very well said, kid. Tony nodded, his eyes full of satisfaction that my baby has grown up. Leon took a deep breath and said, Tony, if you look at me like that again, I will spank you hard with the slippers Pepper just bought. I'm just your brother. Don't always think of me as your son, okay? Tony was not happy about this. Leon, you are always so sensitive. Come on, maybe we can clink glasses to make you feel like an adult. What you said is true. I am not an adult. How can I be your boss? Leon clinked glasses with Tony, but did not fall into the trap in Tony's words. He continued, I haven't finished what I just said. While I'm not planning on changing my daily routine, I will also start taking a different path. What road? Tony straightened up in the water with a splash, chasing the path to becoming stronger. Leon drank the red wine in the glass. That's all? But you're already strong enough. Tony was stunned. There's no kryptonite in this world, and there's no one you can't beat, so why do you have to become stronger? Leon smiled and said, not now, but there will always be one in the future. Tony was non-committal, so how do you plan to get stronger? Keep basking in the sun? Leon shook his head. Of course I have to bask in the sun, but there is a limit to how high I can go just by basking in the sun. So I plan to improve my strength from many aspects. Learn some magic, some qigong, and some scientific knowledge. Then once I have enough knowledge, maybe I can improve my body's upper limit by studying genes. The bright moon was reflected in the water, and Leon gently clenched his fist in the water. Gene research? Super soldier serum like Captain America. Tony had a bad feeling. That stuff shouldn't be useful to you, right? It's really useless, but I want to study my own genes. Leon looked at Tony. It's the Kryptonian genes. Tony was stunned for a while, and his expression changed. Are you sure you want to do this? In the comics, those who studied Kryptonian genes ended up creating Doomsday. It can be seen that Tony has indeed read a lot of DC comics recently and knows about Doomsday. That is a biological weapon of the Kryptonians. It only knows how to kill and will only bring destruction to the world. Even Krypton itself cannot control that power. Tony's face was serious. This is not an easy road, nor is it a smooth path. If the genes of Kryptonians were so easy to study, with so many super brains, everyone on Krypton would have become a god long ago. Leon, maybe you should reconsider this. You don't have to study genes. There are many ways to become stronger. I can explore with you. Leon shook his head. I will try other methods, but I will not give up starting from genes and improving my strength fundamentally. Tony, with a headache, submerged himself in the water and washed his face. He now seemed like those parents facing their rebellious teenagers, his mind full of thoughts about persuading them again. But he didn't know where to start. So, Leon, have you ever thought about what would happen if something unexpected happened during the research and you became Doomsday? Tony guided her. As I just said, no one on Earth can stop you. You can do whatever you want. And if you become Doomsday, what will happen to the Earth? Is there no other ending except destruction? You're going a bit extreme now, Leon. Leon stared at Tony in a daze and fell into deep thought. In the original movie, Tony is actually a relatively radical person. He will never back down when it is time to forge ahead, and he will stick to his decision when faced with important choices. Just like the birth of Ultron and the Civil War of the Avengers. These events occurred partly because Tony was too radical and would never look back once he had made up his mind. And now, even Tony, such a radical person, was telling him that he was being a little extreme. This forced Leon to start reflecting on whether he was indeed reckless in pursuit of power. Okay, I admit that studying Kryptonian genes directly is a bit extreme. After a long moment, Leon nodded slowly, allowing Tony to breathe a sigh of relief. But the next second, Leon changed the subject. However, after I get some kryptonite, I will still start this research. Tony's eyes widened. Wait, kryptonite? There's kryptonite in our world. Are you kidding me? Of course we don't have it in our world. Leon gave Tony a strange look. I'm talking about getting some kryptonite from the DC world. Tony was confused now. To DC no, are we going to start talking about what we dream about at night now? I'm serious. Leon shook his empty wine glass. I have a feeling that my ability to travel through time and space should allow me to travel to the DC world. So when I get the kryptonite, I'll put it in your hands. If I really become Doomsday, you can finish me off. Tony simply ignored the second half of Leon's sentence. He was confused. Let's not talk about kryptonite. Time travel. You have this ability? Does the DC universe really exist? Although theoretically it is possible, Leon was very upset. I remember telling you on my birthday that I had awakened my Kryptonian bloodline and the ability to travel through time and space, but you didn't believe any of it. In fact, Tony never believed that Leon had awakened his Kryptonian bloodline. I just think he has a genetic mutation that allows him to become stronger by basking in the sun. This time, Leon came back from the universe and showed more and more abilities similar to Superman. Tony believed it. However, Leon's other ability to travel through time, which he mentioned at the beginning, had long been forgotten by Tony. Chapter 22 3 Things. Ah, I remember now. Tony pretended to be enlightened, so you can travel through other worlds. Yeah, that's right. Leon simply ignored Lao Deng's pretense. This guy just forgot. Oh my god, you are such a little genius. Now the theory of parallel worlds, or the theory of different worlds, has been proven by you. Tony was startled, then turned his expression to be sincere and earnest. When you travel through the world, you must take me to experience it once. And if you're going to look for kryptonite, you have to take me with you. Tony knew he couldn't persuade Leon anymore, so he chose to join in. At least when you are turned into a normal person by kryptonite, I can take the opportunity to kick you a few times. Leon was already used to this kind of awkward concern. After thinking about it, he did not refuse directly. Let's talk about it when the time comes. Okay, let's stop talking about the pursuit of power for now. Seeing that Tony wanted to say something, he changed the subject. Let's go back to the house first. We have to talk about what I said before, the things I have wanted to do for a long time. Half an hour later, Leon and Tony sat around the workbench in the laboratory. Tony was wearing a bathrobe, and his expression became more and more serious as he listened to what Leon said. There are only 3 things I want to do when I come back this time. Leon raised his finger, as if asking Tony to help him kill 3 people. First thing, deal with Obadiah. This goal has been achieved. I have always emphasized to you that he has problems, and this time it has been proven. The second thing is to deal with the 10 Rings gang. They kidnapped you, so I will help you kill them. I will start tomorrow. The third thing is to investigate the truth behind our parents' death. The first part was fine, but when it came to the third thing, Tony couldn't sit still. The truth. What truth? Didn't they die in a car accident? Leon couldn't just say that he already knew the murderer was Bucky the Winter Soldier. This is unfounded and he couldn't provide any evidence. Besides, his target is not just Bucky. Only the entire Hydra combined is worthy of him showing his strength. I've always been in doubt. Leon put his hands together to support his chin, looking very serious. I wonder if it was really a car accident, why I, who was the most vulnerable, didn't die, but they did. Leon, that's because the car was on fire and they couldn't escape. You were thrown out and your neck was wrapped in a baby wrap twice. Tony's thoughts were unexpectedly clear at this time, but he actually had a hidden urge in his heart, and he wanted to believe everything Leon said immediately. Maybe he had been waiting for someone to tell him your parents' death was not an accident for a long time. 18 years ago, he was out of town and having a falling out with Howard when that couple died. When he received the news of the death, he was still thinking that he might as well go back to Los Angeles after some time, as the old man's face at home was really annoying. Until someone handed him the sealed paper with the death notice written on it. He realized that something was gone forever. How he wanted to vent, he felt endless anger towards himself, and even towards the death notice. Over the years, Tony has accepted the fact that his parents have died and has developed a habit of never accepting anything from others. But deep down in his heart, he might have been longing for someone to tell him, the death of my parents was not an accident. In this way, he might be able to seek revenge on the murderer with justification. The anger towards his past self hidden beneath the playboy's appearance can also be vented. But the more this happened, the more Tony realized that he had to investigate everything thoroughly and not implicate innocent people. In the caves of Afghanistan, he learned not only armor, but also respect for life. That's what it seems on the surface, but there's another possibility. Leon stared into Tony's eyes. The baby was going to die anyway. The cloth wrapped around his neck had already killed him. But the murderer who faked the accident scene and left didn't know that the baby had Kryptonian blood hidden in his body. In the past, Leon couldn't understand why he survived the accident. It is impossible for the controlled Winter Soldier to respect the elderly and love the young, unless he fails. But how could a killing machine like that fail? It was not until Leon awakened his Kryptonian blood that he realized that it was not the Winter Soldier's mistake that saved his life, but the blood hidden in his body. Although he did not awaken, he had a stronger vitality and survived the disaster. Leon's words struck Tony's mind like a bolt of lightning. You mean his head was rumbling? Leon didn't care about Tony's gaffe and continued, when I was a kid, I also thought this conjecture was groundless. Evidently, all parties have confirmed the fact of the accident, so why am I still making groundless speculations? But after awakening my ability, I knew that guess might be correct. It was the truth I subconsciously believed. Those memories of the accident, although not retained by my immature brain at the time, have left traces in my subconscious. This sentence is quite true. After awakening his super brain, Leon had some vague perception of some things that happened before he was 1 year old, but it was not clear. Human memory is a very wonderful thing. It is created when the brain relies on neurons to transmit excitement, thereby engraving the scene in the memory storage area. Before the age of 1, Leon's brain was very immature, his neurons were not fully developed, and he was unable to imprint complete memories. Therefore, even if he awakened his super brain, it would be impossible for him to retrieve those memories that did not exist in the first place. He could only vaguely flash some scenes and images in his mind. but these are just physical explanations. In a world like Marvel where there are mysterious powers, maybe tomorrow or someday in the future, Leon will be able to recover all his memories before the age of 1. Leon's tone suddenly changed. In the past few days since I came back, I haven't given up investigating this matter. I have found out the truth. Tony. Are you serious? Tony stood up quickly, his pupils gradually dilated and began to reveal surprise and anger. Leon's tone did not change. My super hearing found them. The murder is one of theirs. Who are they? Tony already believed it. His tone was as cold as a knife. Hydra. Leon finally gave an answer. Impossible. Hydra has already disappeared. That's the last thing on history. Tony questioned subconsciously. He completely believed what Leon said, but still found it hard to believe. They are dead, but only temporarily. If you cut off a head of Hydra, 2 will grow back. They have been resurrected. Leon directly spoiled the situation. I have checked a lot of confidential files of confidential departments in the past few days. Found behind the major international official organizations in the world. There is a secret organization unknown to the world that takes orders from the International Security Council. They are called the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency, which I will call SHIELD for short. Their headquarters is located in New York. The predecessor of this organization was the Strategic Science Corps established by our father and others. In the Paperclip project after the end of World War II, they recruited some of the talents left in Germany after the demise of Hydra. And these talents have never lost their loyalty to Hydra. Tony could already guess what happened next. So these people then leaned over SHIELD and resurrected Hydra? Leon nodded. Yes, that's the truth. Hydra wants to assassinate our dad because they want to infiltrate SHIELD, and Dad is one of the leaders of SHIELD, so he's in the way. Tony sat down again slowly, pursing his lips. How many Hydra people are there in that SHIELD now? Does the director know about it? The next second, Leon's words made him stand up again. There are over 10,000 people in SHIELD, and most of them are Hydra. The previous director was also a Hydra, but the current director is not, but he is more Hydra than Hydra. What? Tony exclaimed. So this organization is basically affiliated with Hydra? Chapter 23, Hit with One Punch. That's not true. Leon pointed to his ears and said, based on the intelligence I have heard in the past few days, the people in charge of SHIELD are fine for now, and the people in Hydra are just the backbone and elites. Just the backbone and elites. Tony was speechless. How is this different from the whole organization? The organization my father founded was handed over to the enemy by those idiots. He paced back and forth beside the workbench. No, Leon, it is our responsibility to solve the problems left by the old man. We must destroy this organization. I agree. Leon had no objection. Anyway, I can't stand the fact that this organization has no power but always fantasizes about being the savior. And this also fits in with my revenge plan. Leon waved at the holographic projector and projected a picture of Nick Fury. Nick Fury, the current director of SHIELD, has a strong desire for control and wants to take the entire world's security into his own hands. He does sound a lot like Hydra. Wait, why isn't he Hydra? Tony asked. I don't know. Perhaps his former director was worried that he would threaten his position if he joined the organization. Leon waved again, and a file package popped up on the screen. This is the list of Hydra members within SHIELD that I have sorted out and packed. I have put all the evidence and identities in it. Then Tony, find a way to send this file to Nick Fury and cause chaos among them first. Remember not to let Jarvis do it alone, or they will trace it back. Then, when they are done with the chaos, we will release these documents and completely expose Hydra. Then the whole world will spontaneously stand against Hydra. We can take this opportunity to find out the truth behind our parents' death. We need both evidence and the murderer. Leon gave an unfriendly smile. and in the process, I will also show my strength to the world. How to show it? Tony was stunned. Force them to use weapons of mass destruction, intercontinental missiles, hydrogen bombs, anything will do. Then I went up and took on a missile with my own body, and then destroyed one of their military bases with one punch. Leon poured himself a glass of water. This not only demonstrates my defensive power, but also my offensive power, and also shows my attitude of showing no mercy when I strike. I guess, after that, even if I walk in and out of the house in a Superman uniform, no one will dare to mess with me. Tony imagined Leon being bombed by missiles and opened his mouth. Isn't this a bit too risky? Don't worry, I'm not in a hurry to die. I will only act when I'm sure. Besides, if I can't withstand the missiles, can't I just hide? Leon said, taking out a box from behind him. I want to get stronger, but I'm not ready to die. Tony, take a look. This is the uniform I made. How do you think it is? He opened the box and took out a Superman uniform with gold, blue, and red interweaving colors. This uniform does not have the traditional requirement of wearing underwear outside. It is navy blue in color, with a golden inverted pentagon with an embedded S logo on the chest and a red cape fixed on the shoulders. The Superman suit made of Kevlar fiber is bulletproof, soft, and most importantly, very handsome. Even though Tony felt heavy in his heart, he couldn't help but comment, "It looks good. I have to be thankful that you didn't wear your underwear outside. And this S, I remember it means hope, right? No, it means Stark now, the initials of Stark." Leon flicked the S button. Starting tomorrow, I will wear this uniform and go to Afghanistan to destroy the 10 Rings gang. From now on, I will be Superman. You seem to have forgotten me. I will go with you. Tony pulled Leon seriously. This is my own trouble. I have to solve it myself. But you still have to carry out our plan. Leon pointed at the projection. I think you are very eager to find out the truth. Tony shook his head. But that won't stop me from going 10,000 kilometers away to deal with some hateful thugs while I'm investigating the truth. Tony has been keeping an eye on the 10 Rings gang these days. Those guys have great influence from Afghanistan to the Middle East. Within their sphere of influence, ordinary people face the suffering of oppression and plunder every day. Even if Leon didn't say it today, Tony would soon choose to take action to dismantle this gang. Okay then, but we must remain cautious regarding S.H.I.E.L.D. Try not to be traced back to us in the early stages. That would mean a lot of trouble. As you say. Tony looked at Nick Fury's face on the projection and asked, but I'm curious, you should be able to find the base of Hydra, why don't you just take action? Leon shook his head. The top leaders of Hydra have prominent identities in countries around the world. Those bases belong to them. If I take action directly, public opinion may be manipulated and I may be labeled as a dictator or a war taker. Although I'm not afraid, after all, even if I face that kind of situation, at most I'll just have to fight a few more times. But why wait until trouble comes and then have to solve it when you can just use your brain to avoid it in advance? Tony nodded in approval. I knew you were a man who didn't like being passive, just like me. Leon ignored his nonsense and said, that's why I want to show my strength to the whole world. After all, I can't stop using my superpowers forever. My identity will be discovered one day. And when my identity is exposed, the first thing all forces will do is to test me. But others have begun to test and show their intention to violate the law. Can I still endure it? But if I go directly to their door, they will not give up, whether they want to maintain their power or avenge their own people. In the end, maybe I will have to destroy most of the armed forces in the world before I can return to a peaceful daily life. In that case, I might as well make a plan, pull out a world enemy, and directly display all the power in front of the global forces, which is enough to scare them. Tony couldn't help but applaud. Good idea, you made the right choice, Leon. Thank you for the compliment. I just don't like having my normal life disturbed. Leon put away his uniform. That's all I have to do. I've told you everything. Now you can finally rest assured, Tony. Tony smiled and said, I'm not worried about it either. By the way, let me ask you a question. Why do you want to dress up as Superman and dress like a pajama baby? Forgive me for being blunt, but do you want to be a superhero? No, I just like Superman, but I won't be a righteous hero like him. Leon left with the box in his arms. Maybe I'll be a hero who helps the weak when I see them, but for me, I'd rather not do good deeds and save the world. Tony shook his head in the back. That's a shame. I've even thought of a name for our hero team, Super Iron Brothers. What do you think? I think it's childish. Leon's voice disappeared in the corridor. They sound like two kindergarten babies. Chapter 24. Tomorrow the bad guys will disappear. Another new day has arrived. After the rain, the sky cleared up, the sun shone on the world, and Leon began to rush to the battlefield. This was his second time flying to Afghanistan, so he was familiar with the route. It took only a few minutes to get there and overtake more than a dozen Boeing planes. Leon floated in the air, looking down at the blue world under the clouds. His eyes moved from time to time, locking onto each target more accurately than a radar. It was already night in Afghanistan, and most of the 10 Commandments bases had begun martial law and were preparing to rest. However, there are always some terrorists who are so cruel that they will harass civilians as the night deepens. Leon first targeted this group of people. You guys first. He saw 2 armed terrorists kicking the door of a civilian's house. So he tilted his body and fell downwards in an instant. The bioforce field made Leon come silently like the god of death. When he landed, he dispersed the force field, and the ground beneath his feet cracked in all directions like a spider web, making a dull falling sound. The sound startled the 2 terrorists who had just kicked open the door. They turned around with guns in hand and saw Leon dressed in strange clothes. They immediately came up to him cursing. Dari, are you Iranian or Tajik? Leon asked in Dari. He had learned most of the official languages on Earth in the past few days and could understand the Dari swear words spoken by the 2. However, the 2 men remained indifferent and even wanted to put the muzzle of the gun to his head. Leon shook his head. It seems that you don't want to communicate. Goodbye then. He stretched out his hands, grabbed the 2 men's necks like a phantom, lifted them above his head, and gently twisted them. There were 2 crisp clicks, and the 2 terrorists dropped their heads and stopped breathing. Leon dropped the body and was about to leave, but then he thought of something and turned back to look at the family who were hugging each other in silence in the room. This is a typical Pashtun family. The elderly father had a full beard, sunken eyes, sallow skin, and cracked lips. The mother and her 2 daughters were wearing long gowns, a combination of brown and orange, which is a type of Pashtun national costume. They all looked at Leon in fear, their bodies trembling, not daring to speak, and could only desperately hide their 2 daughters' heads in their arms. You don't have to worry about the consequences of these 2 people dying here. Leon said in Pashto, the official language of Afghanistan. It's late at night. Go back to sleep, and when you wake up tomorrow morning, all the terrorist organizations nearby will be gone. After saying that, Leon turned around and floated in the air, sweeping his eyes and locking onto the next target. Please, please. Just as he was about to leave, a childish voice suddenly called out from inside the room. Leon turned around and saw the youngest girl in the family. The girl was about 7 or 8 years old. Her frightened mother covered her mouth, but she still struggled to pry her mother's hand away and asked timidly, Are you Superman? Leon wore a uniform he made himself, a red cape, appeared at the critical moment, and could fly. He really looked like a Superman. But Leon was stunned. He didn't expect that Hollywood's cultural output would be so powerful that even the suffering families in Afghanistan knew about Superman. But think about it. A few years ago, before the Americans came here, there must have been a rich entertainment life here. I'm not, but it's okay for you to call me that. Leon first answered the little girl's question with a smile and then comforted the two parents. It's okay, I will leave soon, and so will those guys from the 10 Rings gang. So you're here to help us? The little girl suddenly asked again. She became bolder after getting the answer. Just like you beat up those bad guys on TV. Leon was silent for a while, then nodded. Yes, I am here to drive away the bad guys, and they will not bully you in the future. Great. Superman, you're awesome. The little girl cheered, broke free from her mother's hand and ran towards Leon, wanting to hug his thighs. Leon laughed dumbly, landed on the ground, squatted down and held down the little carrot head. What's your name? Shafika. My name is Shafika Mazari. Okay, Shafika, listen to me. Go back to your room, lie on the bed, and have a good dream. Then, when you wake up tomorrow morning, all the bad guys will be gone. Okay? The little girl didn't agree. She looked at Leon with her big eyes. Are you leaving, Superman? Safika, Leon answered irrelevantly and tapped the little girl's forehead with his index finger. Next time, don't talk to strangers so easily. Also, listen to your mother. After saying that, Leon stood up, took a step back, and flew into the clouds with a sound of breaking through the air. The little girl and her family ran to the yard together, looking at the dark night sky, shocked. Thank God, he is truly a Superman. The old father made a blessing gesture. That night, the family suddenly began to look forward to tomorrow's life. Leon quickly cleared out all terrorists in Afghanistan that were harassing civilians. Each time he just showed up, threw a punch, and left. A set of processes is completed within 1 second. It takes no more than 10 minutes in total. After clearing out the minions, Leon began to destroy the terrorist base. If it is a normal strategic offensive, it should be to attack small bases first, erode the terrorist forces step by step, and finally drive them out of the country. But Leon certainly won't do that. His first stop was the largest base of the 10 Rings gang. He was flying in the clouds, his cloak rustling in the wind high in the sky. At a glance there were more than 70 people patrolling the base below. Under Leon's eyes of perspective, the remaining 4,000 or so combat members who were sleeping in the base were also clearly visible. In addition to this, he also saw a Jericho missile in a tent in the camp. That was a high-powered weapon that Tony had developed not long ago. 1 round of artillery shells could flatten the hill. How could there be a Jericho missile here? Tony, you are really helping the evil. Although Tony felt very guilty now, Leon still couldn't help but mutter. He even took out his cell phone. Jarvis, Leon called out, take a picture of everything I see and send it to Tony after the battle. Especially the Stark weapons that we saw during the process. Every detail was photographed for him to see. Leon is going to make Tony feel so guilty that he won't be able to sleep all night today. Okay, Master Leon, the camera has been activated for you. Jarvis' voice came from the phone. Leon nodded silently and fell down. The battle begins. This time he made no effort to conceal his tracks and crashed into the 10 Rings camp like a meteorite, so fast that flames appeared in the air due to friction. Boom! The deafening sound of a crash echoed throughout the camp. The next moment the alarm was sounded, shouts of enemy attack rang out, and the terrorists quickly gathered. Leon was standing in the middle of the camp, and he would use heat rays to kill every person who appeared. Soon the terrorists discovered that half of their own men had already been killed before the fight even started. Some people were awakened just as they were falling asleep at night, and upon hearing the tragic news, they began shouting monster and began to flee. However, they were soon killed by the remaining people's concentrated fire. But the rest of the people weren't much better. They didn't even dare to show their faces. They hid behind the tents, pulled out grenades, grenade launchers, rocket launchers, tank missiles, and Jericho missiles, intending to concentrate their fire to destroy the invading monsters without leaving any ashes. Chapter 25. He is simply a god. Leon saw every move of the terrorists clearly, but he did not fight back immediately. but stood there quietly waiting. Soon, a large number of explosive weapons such as grenades and rockets were fired. Leon remained as still as a mountain and ended the round with just a sweep of the heat ray. It wasn't until the vehicle-mounted missiles began to ignite that he took off. "Jarvis, are there any satellites overhead right now?" "Master Leon, there is a U.S. military satellite operating over Afghanistan." Jarvis responded immediately and began analyzing. "As soon as there is a conflict of any size, it will immediately monitor it." And 700 meters away, there was a local reporter secretly filming. "Reporter? A war reporter?" Leon nodded, puffing out the golden S on his chest. "It looks like the audience is in place. How can Superman's first battle go unnoticed?" He glanced around and immediately looked for the reporter. The terrorist organization's base is sandwiched between several small hills, making it easy to defend but difficult to attack. The man was now lying in the bushes on the hillside of one of the hills. They are wrapped tightly and their clothes have local ethnic characteristics. Judging from his half-black and half-white beard, he was obviously not young and was a middle-aged local reporter. Such people have experienced Afghanistan's peacetime, the most dangerous war after the country was invaded, and the most desolate displacement. They tend to hate the 10 Rings more and are less afraid of sacrifice. This is a group of people who only want to expose the atrocities of terrorist organizations at the cost of their own lives in exchange for peace in their country. "Is that really Superman?" The middle-aged reporter also saw the figure flying in the air in the distance. The man had a bright red cape behind him, a tall figure, and a face as handsome as Superman in the movies. People didn't want to forget him, but when they tried to think about it, they couldn't remember him at all. "No matter how you look at it, this is Superman. Is it possible that there really is a Superman in this world? Is he here to deal with the terrorist organization below?" The reporter found it absurd, but the scene that his device had just recorded of Superman facing off against thousands of enemies alone seemed so real. "It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. If Superman can save this country, then I will use all my money for the rest of my life to support DC and Warner Bros." DC Comics was acquired by Warner Bros. In the 20th century. The middle-aged reporter gritted his teeth, and suddenly he saw a fire light up in the camp, followed by a blazing flame, and 6 2 or 3 meter long vehicle-mounted missiles flew into the air. That's a missile. Not good." The reporter looked at Leon with bloodshot eyes. "Superman, get out of the way, get out of the way." However, Leon not only did not retreat, but instead went forward to meet the enemy. He accelerated in the air, holding the phone in one hand and clenching the other hand into a fist in front, gliding with the missile like an arrow. Boom. One missile exploded, and then several others followed suit. Deafening explosions echoed across the hills, smoke quickly spread, and flames illuminated the branches of every tree. The strong wind from the explosion bent the surrounding trees one by one. The middle-aged reporter's headscarf was blown away, revealing a head of dry yellow hair that was blown upside down. He stared blankly at the smoke in the sky, his blue eyes reflected red by the flames, and he felt uneasy. Under the direct bombardment of 6 missiles, no one could survive, and even leaving a complete body was a luxury. But that's Superman. The bullets below couldn't hurt him, but he still took the initiative to receive the missiles. What if? It seemed to be responding to the expectations of the middle-aged reporter. Suddenly a strong wind blew up in the clouds. Who? The strong wind was fierce but not fast. In a few seconds, it blew away the mushroom cloud that was about to rise, revealing an intact figure. It's Superman. Superman's cape is still fluttering behind him, and he is not hurt at all. No, let alone hurting him. Those missiles couldn't even leave him with a hint of gunpowder blackness. By Allah, I knew it. I knew he could. The middle-aged reporter jumped up, his face flushed with excitement. He jumped and punched excitedly, not caring that he had exposed his tracks. He looked at Superman, and at this moment he seemed to see hope. After so many days and nights of waiting, we didn't see the intervention of international organizations, but we did see a miracle happen. The terrorists in the camp were as excited as the middle-aged reporter at this time. They were also jumping up and down and yelling, but they were yelling "Monster! That's a monster!" After a while, gunshots rang out among the noisy terrorists, and another group of deserters or people who were unwilling to be cannon fodder were shot dead. Leon waited in the air for a while, showing an interested expression. Oh, they finally brought out the Jericho missile. They're planning to die together. The Jericho missile has a very wide fire coverage area. After the explosion, the area within 2 kilometers will be covered by flames. These terrorists wanted to use Jericho at such a close distance, intending to drag Leon to die with them. That's great. I haven't seen the power of Tony's masterpiece yet. Now I can finally experience it for myself. Jarvis, don't forget to record this and send it to Tony, leaving a message asking him how he can sleep. Okay, Master Leon, I'm recording all the time. Jarvis is always so considerate. After waiting for a few minutes, the terrorists finally figured out how to operate the Jericho missile, pushed it onto the open ground, and ignited it successfully. 3 Jericho missiles were launched simultaneously, clearing out all the stock in the base at once. The 3 missiles accelerated in the air and disintegrated immediately after approaching the target. Dozens or hundreds of small missiles blocked all of Leon's retreat routes. This is a comprehensive bombing with no blind spots. Tony's invention is truly top-notch. It's worthy of being Tony's latest work. Leon also praised. Suddenly he thought of something and glanced at the reporters on the hillside. But I have to leave for a while. After saying this, Leon's figure instantly disappeared in the encirclement of missiles. Time is tight. He appeared beside the reporter like a flash, picked him up from the bushes, and then flew to another hill 3 kilometers away and put it down in the blink of an eye, and then returned to the center of the missile in an instant. Don't worry, I'm back. It shouldn't be too late, right? Leon said to himself as he looked at the approaching missile. The Jericho missile is extremely fast, and its strategic positioning is to carry out indiscriminate bombing in the shortest possible time. Almost as soon as Leon returned to his original position, the concentrated fire of the missile group was already approaching him. However, Leon did not want his carefully woven uniform to be blackened by missiles, so he threw punches quickly and continuously. Countless fist shadows appeared simultaneously in 360-degree directions, as if Leon had grown countless hands on his body. In almost an instant, all the missiles were detonated at the same time. Boom! The explosion began, more intense and violent than before. The sound of tearing the sky, the flames rising into the sky, and the smoke covering the area for thousands of meters. A strong shock wave spread at the moment of the explosion. The trees and mountains in the range first collapsed and then were engulfed by the explosion. 3 kilometers away, the reporter felt a flash before his eyes and found himself in a different place. Then he was knocked to the ground by the shock wave. He rolled on the ground for a few times, staggered to his feet, pulling his clothes in a tangled mess, and stared blankly at the mushroom cloud in the distance that seemed to be reaching straight into the sky. Even though he was so far away, he could still feel the intense heat. What kind of missile is that? How could it be so terrifying? The reporter repeated stupidly. He still remembered the scene he had just seen, where the missile broke into dozens of small missiles in the air. There is simply no way to counter a missile like that. If it were used against the local defense forces, the tragic outcome would be unimaginable. Also, Superman, where is he? He just saved me. The reporter leaned against the tree weakly, looking at the mushroom cloud. He knew I was hiding there, so he saved me. What a good man. Wait, could it be that he went back to deal with the missiles again? The next second, a hurricane blew away the mushroom cloud, revealing the figure of Superman, once again confirming the reporter's speculation. My God, he's simply a god. the reporter exclaimed as he looked at Superman, who was still unharmed. Chapter 26. This is Superman. The figure in the sky stood silently for a long time. The sea of fire that covered the mountains below had been blown out by him, and the scattered flames were now as sparse as the stars in the sky. However, Lion followed the principles of forest fire prevention, checked again carefully, and put out all the remaining sparks one by one. Then he looked down at the 10 Rings gang base that had been razed to the ground and looked around leisurely. However, in the eyes of the middle-aged reporter, those actions were like those of a righteous Superman, making sure that he did not let any criminal go. The damn 10 Rings gang has done all kinds of evil, but now it's good. Superman is here, and we have hope. Superman is here, and we will have peace. At this moment, the middle-aged man felt that the figure in the air was as majestic as a god. His body trembled unconsciously, and there was a sense of pleasure and revenge in his eyes, but more of it was expectation and hope. It must be like this. He is here to help us. To save us. He is a messenger sent by Alano. He is Allah on earth, the reincarnation of God. He was so excited that he cried with joy. His weak legs made him kneel on the ground, and he bent over and cried bitterly. Everything is going to be all right. It's finally going to be over. Superman is hero. Superman. I want to tell Superman that the 10 Rings still have many bases in this land. The middle-aged man suddenly thought of something, and he crawled and rolled onto a tree trunk to stand up, wanting to shout for Superman. However, when he looked up, the clothes as blue as the ocean and the cloak fluttering like hot blood were right in front of him. Superman. The middle-aged reporter was shocked. Superman stood in front of him without him knowing. Thank you for your compliment just now, but I am not Allah. I am just a person who sees injustice. Superman smiled and said, "What's your name? You're very brave to risk your life to film near a terrorist organization. You're a hero worthy of admiration." No. I'm just an ordinary person. You are our hero. The middle-aged reporter was so excited by the praise that his face flushed. My name is Hafizullah Abdullah. Thank you so much for saving me just now. At such a close distance, he could finally see Superman's appearance clearly. Those deep black eyes are as charming as the graceful night. His face was carved with a knife and an axe, and every line was so tough and handsome. This is simply a perfect man. How could such a perfect person not be a god who came to the world to save all living beings? Abdullah can guarantee that if he were a young girl, he would dream of this Superman every night for the rest of his life. No, even if he wasn't a girl, he would still have this dream. Don't be nervous, Abdullah. I came to you hoping you could do me a favor. Leon felt that there was something inexplicably strange in the eyes of the reporter in front of him, which made his back tighten. He hurriedly told his intention. You should have taken a picture of what I did in the 10 Rings gang camp just now, right? Yes, that's right. Abdullah was a little flustered, and immediately held the camera in both hands and handed it over. Please forgive me for taking pictures without permission. Please take back that's not what I meant. Leon pushed the camera back. I want you to go back and release these videos in front of the media. In your own name, of course. Just say that you took the secretly shot at the risk of your life, and tell other media outlets for me tell all foreign troops on this land to leave immediately and give up the invasion. Abdullah's eyes widened. Are you going to declare war on the United States? It's not a declaration of war, but a post-war declaration. Leon turned around, leaving a profile. With one final nod to the reporter, he lifted his feet off the ground and flew into the clouds. Goodbye, I will remember you, a brave hero. Abdullah stared blankly at the figure disappearing into the night sky and unconsciously made a prayer gesture. Superman is above. He is simply the perfect Holy Spirit, the God of salvation. He has a pair of weight. I seem to have forgotten what he looks like. Jarvis, send all the battle footage to Tony. On the other hand, Leon had no idea how much of an impression he had left on the middle-aged reporter. He was only thinking about Tony. Also, If he hasn't gotten up yet, provide a wake-up call. Okay, Master Leon, I'll transmit the image data back to Los Angeles right away. Jarvis did as he was told. I believe Tony will like my gift. Leon determined his next target in the clouds. Before you act, check the local time for me, Jarvis. Okay, it's 9:47 p.m. local time. Then work harder and try to finish off all the 10 rings bases before 11 o'clock, and then go to the Eagles base. Master Leon, are you going to attack the American base? Do you need me to inform Mr. Stark in advance? No need to tell him. As a taxpayer, I feel it is my duty to refuse those rednecks from using my money to do bad things and to rectify the mess. Besides, I should build up some reputation first, so that it will be more logical for me to stand up and destroy Hydra later. You are very considerate. The other side of the ocean. Shield. Chief, I think you need to take a look at this. The half-bald middle-aged agent placed a tablet in front of his boss, and the usually kind expression on his face became very serious. And that boss? A bald, one-eyed black man sitting behind a white lacquered desk. After hearing the sound, he slowly turned his chair and looked back. He was looking at the scenery outside the window before, leaving only a cold back view to his subordinates who came in, appearing mysterious and unpredictable. At this moment, the one-eyed black man who was called the director nodded calmly with a cold expression. Well, Carlson, what's the news? The largest 10-rings base in Afghanistan has been destroyed. Chief Fury. Oh, who did it? Nick Fury glanced down nonchalantly, and his unfathomable expression suddenly collapsed. What the hell? He stood up suddenly, eyes wide open, and watched the satellite images on the tablet computer. A cool and arrogant man was casually dealing with the grenades in the sky with a heat ray. What the hell is this? Chief, there's more to come. Halson clicked the screen to fast forward. Soon the progress bar dragged to the second half. Nick Fury watched in a daze as Leon withstood the Jericho missile and calmed down the aftermath of the explosion without any harm. His mind was suddenly filled with exclamation marks and question marks. When did such an awesome person appear on Earth? Why didn't he know about it? Who is this? Have you found out the results of your investigation? Nick Fury subconsciously wanted to take out the pager he used to contact Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is his good friend who has the power to travel through the universe and is now maintaining cosmic peace in outer galaxies. When he encounters a crisis that he cannot solve, he only needs to press the pager in his hand to call Captain Marvel for rescue. And now the man in the video gave him a sense of crisis that made him want to press the pager urgently. Halson said with unprecedented seriousness, "This is Superman." Director, Chapter 27. The storm is rising. Superman. Who is that? Nick Fury's eyes narrowed, and then he was confused. Director, Superman is a superhero in DC Comics. He has super strength and super speed weight. You said this is a character from a comic book? One of those superheroes who wears pajamas, has his face covered, and saves the world. To be precise, Superman does not wear a mask, Director. He has a biological force field that prevents people from remembering or photographing his appearance. Halson knew everything. Nick Fury looked at the satellite image carefully and said, "It's true that we can't capture facial details. You seem very familiar with him." "I'm a fan of Superman and, of course, Captain America." Halson was a little excited when talking about his hobbies. "So how do you think we should treat this Superman?" Nick Fury leaned back in his chair with his hands crossed. It seems that he doesn't want his true identity to be discovered. According to the plot in the comics, he is on the side of justice and will stop unjust violence, so maybe we can try to contact him, Carlson said. That's a comic, Carlson. In reality, this guy is just an imitator. And what he's doing is committing violence. That seems to be true. The Superman in the comics doesn't kill people. He has a principle of not killing. Compared to Captain America, stop talking about your comics, Carlson. Nick Fury knocked on the table. Take Barton with you to Afghanistan and try to investigate the other side. Yes, Chief. Halson finished his report and walked out with a new mission. When he reached the door, he heard Nick Fury's instructions from behind him. Also, send me a set of Superman comics. At the same time, the same scene was also happening in the military. But Nick Fury, who knows more about superpowers? There was chaos in the military command center. As a colonel in the Weapons Research and Development Department, Rhodes was the first to come forward to explain that the person in the video was a living person, not a humanoid individual weapon. The major of the missile force stood up and said that the enemy could not be harmed by the Jericho missiles, so only nuclear bombs could be used. The naval captain said that they couldn't deal with people who could fly. An Air Force lieutenant colonel said that it is difficult for airborne missiles to hit a target that moves so fast and is so small. Finally, General Ross made a decision: ignore it for now, keep paying attention, and if the other party does not show hostility, try to negotiate. It would be best to let the other party cooperate in the research and create a super soldier belonging to the Eagle Sauce. Then, adjourn the meeting and prepare for battle. This morning, the major confidential departments were turbulent and noisy. The Stark mansion on the Los Angeles coast is warm and lazy. Until Jarvis woke Tony up from his sweet dream using the Stubbornness sound that Leon had recorded before. God! Jarvis, what are you doing? Tony got up from the ground holding the quilt. He was frightened by the sudden sound of Stubbornness and rolled off the bed. The passionate tune, like a galloping horse, made his heart beat fast, and he thought someone was going to trample on his soft bed. Sir, Master Leon just told me to wake you up and play this video for you. After saying that, Jarvis controlled the holographic projection device and presented the image taken by Leon's mobile phone in front of Tony in the screen. Thousands of guns fired in unison, hundreds of grenades were launched in a blanket bombing, and vehicle-mounted missiles and Jericho missiles appeared one after another. The screen was full of flames, large flames, explosions, and even bigger explosions, which stunned Tony. He didn't even have time to worry about Leon, who was facing these dangerous weapons in the picture, and the progress bar had already reached the end. What is this? A promotional video that Leon made overnight. Where is he now? Master Leon is currently destroying the Ten Rings gang in Afghanistan, sir. The scene in the video was filmed for you in real time 10 minutes ago by him. He's in the... God, when did he leave? It's only now, oh, it's 10 o'clock. Tony looked at the bright sun outside and rubbed his face. He actually ran away alone, so why did he take this video for me? Master Leon wants you to take a good look at the Stark munitions in the video, sir. Stark Armstoney's expression froze. He scrolled back to the beginning of the video and watched it again, his face becoming increasingly worse. They are basically Stark's weapons. Also, why are the Jericho missiles in the Ten Rings base? Tony's face was expressionless, but his trembling cheeks revealed his uneasy mood. I only sold this type of missile to the military. Where did these people get it from? The military? Or Obadiah? Sir, only one batch of Jericho missiles has been produced so far, and that's the batch you're selling, Jarvis said. Tony said nothing with a blank face. After a few seconds, he put on his shirt and walked out. Jarvis, you control Leon's armor and come with me to West Asia. Oh, and the Middle East. Okay, sir. Also, do you think you can sleep tonight? Why do you ask? Tony frowned. Master Leon asked me to ask you this question and report the result to him promptly. Tony opened his mouth, wanting to say something but stopped. Finally, he took a deep breath and exhaled through his nose. Tell him that when I can't sleep, I will make him unable to sleep too. After saying this, he spread out his hands and put on the Mark Roman 3 armor immediately. Follow me, Jarvis. He controlled the armor to take off, followed by the Super Mark I controlled by Jarvis. Super Mark I was the name given by Leon himself. This big boy has such a damn strong desire to win that he even wants to take advantage of others when naming him. Morning in Los Angeles is night in Afghanistan. This night is destined to be restless. The flames from guns and cannons shot up into the sky one after another over this land. If you look down from the sky, it looks like candles lighting up and then going out in an instant. It started lighting up from the northeast corner of the map, one piece after another, and finally all dimmed in the southwest corner. Tell me the time now, Jarvis. Lion looked at the last 10 rings base below, which had become a ruin with smoke rising. It is now 11:08 at night local time. Well, it took some time. It took 8 minutes longer than expected. I don't know why, but every time I see the 10 Commandments gang using missiles, he couldn't help wanting to wait. Wait until the missile is launched, and then blow it up in front of the terrorists. By then, even the most devout and stubborn members of the 10 Commandments would be desperate and pissed themselves. Killing people is also heartbreaking. Lion felt that he had gone a little too far. But I have to say, it's really fun to do this. Especially when you look down at those thugs who are so scared that they are crying, and say, "Is this all you have?" It's so disappointingly weak. That would be even better. It just wastes some time. After clearing out the 10 Rings gang in this country, the next target will be the Eagles military base. Master Leon, what are you going to do? Just show your strength and destroy the weapons. After all, the people above make the decisions. Most ordinary soldiers just follow orders and may not all be willing to start a war. Your choices have always been wise, Master Leon, Mr. Stark has entered the Afghan border and is trying to contact you. Do you want to connect? Chapter 28 Frozen Base. Refuse for now. Tell him I'm busy. If he wants revenge, he can fly west and find the 10 rings in other areas. Lion flew to the nearest Eagle garrison base. There are 7 bases like this in and around Afghanistan. In the next few years, it will expand to 19. With so many bases built around a small and backward country, it can be said that the United States has ulterior motives and its wolfish ambitions are obvious. During this trip to Afghanistan, Lion originally only intended to eliminate the 10 Rings gang, and the subsequent plans would be left for later and slowly implemented. But the little girl he met at the beginning of the night made him change his mind. After all, I'm here now, in the middle of the night, and if I don't do something, I'd be letting down my memory of my past life. Although the Hawk in the Marvel world is not exactly the same as the one in the previous life, but Lion couldn't help but want to trim the claws of the bald eagle. As he landed over the base, air raid alarms quickly rang in every barracks. These well-trained soldiers are simply more vigilant and more efficient than terrorists. Before Leon could make any offensive move, machine guns were aimed at him. The base's external communication equipment began to threaten. "Intruder, land now. Stop where you are. Otherwise we will open fire immediately." An arrogant tone, a rapidly assembled army, and uniform gun muzzles. All of this made Lion couldn't help but sneer. He did not consider peaceful negotiations as an option. When dealing with a group of robbers, it is only time to speak after you have subdued and hurt them. Leon puffed out his chest slightly, inhaled and exhaled cold air. He chose to use freezing breath to finish off the enemy. Whoosh! A strong wind suddenly blew up. The bone-chilling cold wind instantly swept through every corner of the military base. Following the cold wind came layer after layer of rapidly spreading ice. Layers of solid ice climbed over the surface of the base buildings like vines, invading the interior and freezing all weapons and ammunition. Even the troops in the camp were not immune. The soldiers soon turned into icemen. It's just that the ice layer on them is much thinner. When the entire base was wrapped in ice, it became as frosty and crystal clear as the ice castle in fairy tales. Leon paused. He nodded in satisfaction, then raised his fist and pounded it hard on the wall of the base. It looked like just a light punch, which didn't hurt or itch and didn't cause any ripples. Crack, crack. However, circles of fine cracks immediately spread out along the impact point and quickly spread throughout the entire building. When the cracks become dense enough to a certain critical point, the wall under Leon's fist collapsed and shattered instantly, breaking into debris wrapped in ice. The collapse of this section of the wall was like the first domino to fall. Soon the surrounding walls began to break, and the entire garrison base was caught in a chain reaction. The wall, which had already become extremely fragile due to the low temperature and freezing, was completely unable to resist the transmission of this force. I saw buildings collapsing one after another. What a spectacular scene it is! Starting from Leon, all the base buildings and the items inside them collapsed into ruins one after another. But the sound of the building collapsing was not dull, but rather particularly pleasant because of the impact of the ice. For a moment, the sounds of solid matter breaking and ice colliding came one after another, like millions of jade stones shattering and phoenixes singing. When everything was shattered, the huge base complex had become a pile of rubble. Various fragments with rugged cracks reflect the moonlight at night in the ice. Leon landed on the ground and stepped on the ruins, making a crisp crackling sound. Directly in front of him was the only thing left of the garrison base Eagle's soldiers. Thousands of soldiers lost consciousness in the ice. Although they would suffer from illness in the future, at least their lives were safe. Leon's control of strength is extremely precise. He destroyed all the base buildings and weapons and ammunition, but did not harm the soldiers inside the base. Even the hidden injuries left on these people were intentional small punishments and big warnings. "You're asking for trouble," Leon whispered, his eyes quickly turning red and emitting heat rays. However, the highest temperature can exceed the temperature of the sun's surface, and the heat rays are enough to burn everything in the world. At this time, the ice sculptures that swept over the soldiers were only able to thaw them. What a delicate control. Who? So cold. He is Superman. There is actually a Superman in this world. Did we just provoke Superman? As soon as the soldiers thawed, they all collapsed to the ground, hugging their own bodies or other people's bodies, rubbing them together to generate heat. They looked at Leon standing on the ruins, not daring to breathe. Even the lieutenant colonels with 3-bar epaulets on their shoulders in the crowd did not dare to say a single arrogant word at this moment. "Now, I officially notify you to withdraw from Asia within a week. Otherwise I will come again." "Don't say I didn't warn you." The ice under Leon's feet reflected a faint blue light under the moonlight. In the eyes of all the soldiers, Leon at this moment was like a cold blade hanging over their heads and ready to fall down at any time. There was total silence in the crowd. No one answered and no one dared to speak. Leon didn't wait for an answer. He left a warning and took off. These privates, as well as a few mid-level officers among them, do not have the authority to respond to requests for withdrawal. He needs to continue to demonstrate his strength in order to make the Eagles hesitate temporarily, and if he wants to completely resolve subsequent disputes, he will have to wait until he deals with Hydra and then withstand a nuclear bomb. The next target is 26 kilometers to the east. Try to resolve it within 1 minute. Leon suddenly accelerated in the air. At the first base, he seemed to do a lot and spent a lot of time. But in fact, from the time he flew above the base to the time he destroyed the base and left. In fact, it took less than 3 minutes. So Leon planned to eliminate all the Eagle bases before the 7 or 8 satellites above his head could react. That's right, in the past hour, the number of satellites monitoring overhead by Leon has increased. First, Eagle added 2 high-precision satellites later. It was the rabbit next door who saw that something was wrong with his neighbor and sent one. Then slowly, the 5 permanent members all arrived, and a group of satellites were as lively as if they were having a meeting right above his head. Leon didn't mind at all. He even wished that every country would broadcast the event live, so that the people who had been suffering from the Eagles for a long time could see how he would deal with the Eagles' base. On the other side, Tony was still on his way to the scene. Jarvis, what do you mean when you said that Leon didn't answer my call and went to cause trouble at the military base by himself? Tony communicated with Jarvis while flying. That's what I should have done. Sir, do you mean that you are also planning to attack the Eagle Sauce base? Jarvis asked. Attack? Your word is not accurate. It should be to help them relieve the anxiety of having too much ammunition. I understand. You plan to do the same as Master Leon, destroy the Eagle's firepower and drive them out of this area. That guy is going to do this. Tony curled his lips. He always steals my work. I came here to seek an explanation because the Eagle Party sent Jericho to a terrorist organization without authorization. What's his reason? Chapter 29 Tony and 039's Last Stubbornness. Perhaps for a girl, sir, Jarvis replied considerately. So it was for a girl. That's not surprising. That guy is as gentlemanly as I am. He treats all girls well. Wait, what did you say, a girl? Tony exclaimed belatedly. Could it be that one of his ex-girlfriends was kidnapped by the Eagle Party? Or was it that the girl he met locally was bullied by the Eagle Party? Tony began to become interested. It's a local little girl. You could say she was bullied by the Eagle forces, sir, Jarvis said matter-of-factly. Wow, this is really shocking news. Tell me the girl's information and I will share it with Pepper when I get back. The gossipy heart of the parents began to sprout. I will search for information for you. Shafika Mazari, 7 years old, born in Kabul, Afghanistan. Huh? Wait, that's not right. Duo Sheisui? Tony's eyes widened. 7. Any questions, sir? Tony was silent for a moment. Didn't you tell Leon that he was committing a crime? Sir, although Master Leon killed 2 terrorists when he helped the Mazari family escape the harassment of the 10 Rings gang, that should be considered a heroic act, not a crime. Oh, you mean nothing happened between him and the girl? I mean, he developed sympathy for the girl, so he attacked the Eagle base. Tony was slightly embarrassed and felt deeply guilty for the dirty thoughts that just occurred to him. After being in the world of fame and fortune for so long, everything seems to be colored. How can I tolerate this? I guess I have to quit drinking and gambling from now on. That's right. Do you have any different understanding? Jarvis was puzzled. Well, actually I think so too. Okay, Jarvis, help me navigate to Leon's current location. Tony changed the subject. Sorry, Master Leon's current speed is over Mach 20, so it's a little difficult to locate. He's in such a hurry. Then navigate to where he's going. Okay, sir. 5 minutes later, Tony Stark arrived above an Eagle base. He was silent as he looked at the ruins covered by ice crystals below and a large group of soldiers shivering in woolen blankets waiting for rescue. Jarvis, you said Leon is here? Sir, this is the destination of Master Leon 5 minutes ago. He left 3 minutes ago. Tony complained. You should have told me earlier. Now let's go to his next destination. No, to his last destination. Tony gritted his teeth and said, it looks like he intends to destroy all the bases directly. Let's get there before he does and eliminate his target. Without thinking, Tony could guess what Leon was planning. That is to destroy all the Eagles' garrison bases. In this way, he would not kill even a single soldier. But the bases that the Eagles spent several years building were all destroyed. After that, even if the Eagles didn't want to retreat, they had to. This plan coincides with Tony's own ideas. However, his original plan was only to destroy the weapons and ammunition in the military base. Compared with Leon's approach of cutting off the source of the problem, this still seems a bit petty. Sir, I'll guide you here. But you seem a little unhappy? Jarvis asked. It could analyze the corresponding emotions from Tony's tone and expression, but it felt confused. Master Leon destroyed all the 10 Rings gang bases for you to avenge yourself, and destroyed the Eagle Party base to vent your anger indirectly. Isn't that good? Of course, I'm so touched. Tony felt a tightness in his chest, but I just feel aggrieved. Jarvis, do you know what aggrieved is? Analyze it for yourself. Frustration means that when you encounter something unpleasant and have negative emotions, you are unable to talk or vent them. Yes, that's it. Leon didn't leave any enemies for me, which makes me feel suffocated. Tony's voice suddenly became louder. Do you feel that he is treating me like a child? I don't quite understand. Legally speaking, you are Master Lion's brother, that's the problem. I should be the one protecting him and doing these things. Tony twisted his neck. Speed up, Jarvis. We must take down the last military base before Leon. Yes, sir. Although Tony's ideas are good, his will to maintain his dignity as a brother is very strong and he is very proactive. But unfortunately, when he arrived at the last Eagle base, all he saw was a frozen ruin. Tony's head full of battle plans and his chest full of fighting spirit suddenly cooled down, even colder than the soldiers who were shaking like sieves below. Jarvis, where is he? Tony asked dully. He's above you, sir. Huh? Above me? Tony suddenly perked up and looked up to see Leon's cloak flying down. Tony, you're finally here. Leon teased as soon as they met. I thought you were going to wait until I had a good sleep before coming. Tony was furious. You're still talking about sleeping? You woke me up with Jarvis and rushed over. But you just rushed forward like a train, leaving no enemies for me. Leon spread his hands. I asked Jarvis to tell you, if you want revenge, go west. There are many 10 Rings gangs waiting in the Middle East. How can this be the same? Tony held his breath. What's the difference? Leon said, not caring much. They are all villains of the 10 Rings gang. They don't have ABC carved on their foreheads. They are all equally sinful. As he said this, he glanced at the Super Mark I controlled by Jarvis next to him. But I can see that you are really serious this time. You even brought my armor with you. Are you planning to fight a protracted war? You mean a protracted battle where either all the enemies are killed or they are frozen to death. Tony's feet spurted out flames. Listen, I'm going to the west now. The 10 Rings gang there will be handed over to me, although Afghanistan has been settled by Leon. But Tony still wanted to do something. The damage he had unknowingly done to the world in the past could no longer be undone. But he still tried to make amends as much as he could, even if it might seem like he was just trying to impress himself or soothe his own guilt. Okay, I'll leave everything to you. I won't get involved over there for now. Leon looked at the time, but pay attention to the time, Tony. I will prepare lunch at home and wait for you to return. Then maybe you should prepare dinner. Tony said he could fight the 10 Rings gang all day long. Leon shrugged and was about to say something else when he suddenly looked up at the sky. His sight passed through the clouds and saw a large group of satellites moving overhead hundreds of kilometers away. You're catching up really fast. He sighed. He shouted at Tony, Tony, my current identity as Superman has attracted the attention of many countries. Remember not to come into contact with me in uniform for the time being to avoid arousing suspicion. Tony, who had already flown to the west, waved back to indicate that he had received the message. Chapter 30 Prediction Experiment. Leon got rid of a bunch of satellites and returned home at almost 1 p.m. Los Angeles time. He simply made a few fried eggs and pasta for lunch. As for Tony, just as he said before, he fought with the 10 Rings gang until dinner time and had not returned home yet. So naturally, after testing the thrust once in the basement, Leon flew into space and began to bask in the sun. He and Tony worked out an experimental plan to predict the upper limit of Kryptonian bloodline growth. The specific process is that he tests the thrust once before going to space to bask in the sun every day, and tests it again after the end. Repeat this process for a month, keeping the sun exposure time the same each time. In this way, the two could use Jarvis to build a rough model. This can be used to estimate the upper limit of Lion's physical enhancement. Of course, Lion readily agreed to such a simple test. Besides, the time spent basking in the sun every day has always been the moment he looks forward to the most and is the happiest. Facing the sun in space is like being immersed in a hot spring, and the sound of blood flowing is like the gurgling sound of spring water. At that moment, he could always feel very clearly that his strength was increasing rapidly. Its speed is so fierce and turbulent, just like the fish rushing into the river after the river thaws in spring. Moreover, based on my experience in recent days, the speed of becoming stronger is getting faster and faster. Lion understood that if the effect of a person's exercise was an arc that first rose and then fell, then he is in the rising stage at this time. From the perspective of the overall growth stage of Kryptonians, it can perhaps be defined as a weak period when they are rapidly becoming stronger. Reflected in numerical values. Even after a few more days of sun exposure, Lion's full body thrust had reached a whopping 400,000 tons. This speed of growing stronger makes Lion happy every second he spends in the sun, as if he had taken a ton of dopamine. That feeling of pleasure is like being hit by some kind of shiver that will put a person into sage mode, and it happens one after another without stopping. Die. Just when I was feeling extremely comfortable, Jarvis' voice sounded, indicating that the time was up. Leon reluctantly opened his eyes, flew out of the manned spacecraft, and prepared to go home for dinner. Now, this spacecraft, which was originally used to protect him, is now able to bask in the sun safely. It has become a park where he stays temporarily every day. Stranded in space, it is used specifically as a place to rest when sunbathing. After all, if he basked in the sun directly in a vacuum, he would easily be discovered by satellites from various countries. At that time, a large group of satellites will gather around him, surrounding him like a gorilla in a zoo, which will be very annoying. Lion returned home soon. After completing a set of thrust tests, Jarvis suddenly reminded Master Lion, Mr. Stark was chased by the Eagle Flight formation on his way back. Do you want to go to support him? Tony is being chased. Where is he? Leon was stunned. In the middle of the West Coast mountains. Isn't that the place where I was chased by the reconnaissance plane last time I see? Leon gave a gloating smile. Finally, we have reached the familiar part of the movie. Tony must have flown into California from the eastern Pacific Ocean and was directly photographed by the military's airspace satellite. Master Leon, Mr. Stark's condition is not optimistic at the moment. This is the footage sent back from the scene. Jarvis popped up a projection in front of Leon. The picture is Tony's first-person perspective. I saw one fighter jet after another flying down from the thick clouds. There were so many of them, more than a dozen or so, that they were enough to fight a small battle. Leon could hear Tony curse under his breath in the picture, and then his vision turned 180 degrees, ready to escape. The next moment, countless bullets flew past him. The screen also began to shake, and it was obvious that Tony had been hit hard by a volley of bullets from the onboard machine gun. It looks like we're going to be taught a severe lesson by the Air Force. Lion raised his eyebrows, but he wasn't too worried. I remember that the current top speed of the Mark Roman 3 has exceeded Mach 8. It should be easy for Tony to escape, right? He stroked his chin and said, could it be that he is confident and is planning to fight the Air Force? That's not the case, Master Lion, Jarvis explained. Given Mr. Stark's physical condition, the time it can support the armor to burst out at the fastest speed is actually very short. If it lasts longer than a certain amount of time, his heart will explode due to the excessive pressure. Normally, the average speed of the Mark Roman 3 will be maintained at around Mach 2, but this will also continue to consume Mr. Stark's physical strength. Leon couldn't help laughing. That means he was exhausted after defeating the 10 Rings gang and couldn't speed up, right? You're right, said Jarvis. Then why doesn't he ask me for help? Mr. Stark only asked me to send you this video. I understand. This guy is just being stubborn. Leon moved his shoulders and said, however, even though he was so shy to ask for help, how could I not save him? After all, he is my beloved friend, don't you think so, Jarvis? Of course, legally speaking, you and Mr. Stark are currently the closest people to each other. Jarvis failed to understand the sarcasm in Leon's words. Leon smiled and said, help me get the Mark Roman 2 ready. I want to teach Tony a good lesson. You don't wear the Superman suit. The steel armor seems to only limit your strength. It's easier to go to class wearing armor. He had been thinking about showing off his skills when Tony was defeated, so now the chance had come. Leon's sight crossed the West Coast mountains. Tony was now shuttling between the locks of several airborne missiles, like a petrel flying through a storm. That beautiful and luxurious golden red armor has now mostly turned black. It was covered with bullet holes and scratches, just like a kebab that had just come off the grill. Look at our Uncle Tony, he's been bullied so badly. Leon walked towards the garage. There is no time to mourn for Tony, it's time for the hero Leon to come out and save the day. At the same time, military command room. The senior executives who had met a few hours ago to discuss Afghan Superman gathered again. They were all looking at the satellite images on the projected screen. Above is the golden red armor that was almost hit by a missile and is twisting left and right, and the blue-red armor that is providing cover on the side. They are not Superman. Rhodes made a judgment. They are just two humanoid exoskeleton mechas. Superman can definitely destroy our flying formation easily. Chapter 31: The Correct Use of Iron Lump. When the two armors entered the country, the soldier in charge of monitoring thought that Superman had come, so he immediately pressed the emergency button and reported to his superiors. That's why the elite flight formation consisting of more than a dozen fighter jets is now deployed. But where did this thing come from? Rod, did you just use the word just? An Air Force lieutenant colonel slammed the table and said, 2 of these guys can hold up an entire formation of ours, and you still think it's not strong, saying it's just an exoskeleton mecha. Rhodes touched his face and said, I am comparing it to Superman. I work in the weapons research department, so of course I know what these two things mean. But they really should be described as only. Look at the technology on them. A known high-power stable energy, ultra-high strength and precision metal materials, incredible anti-gravity system and energy transmission system. These technologies are at least 10 years ahead of us. If these technologies were in our hands, the Pentagon could start planning for world domination tomorrow. What I can't understand is why the other party uses such technology to build mechas. It's like a person being protected by a group of tanks and going to a hand-to-hand fight on the battlefield. And did you notice that the other side didn't launch an active attack? Is it possible that they are actually on our side? Rhodes advised, so why don't we try to communicate with each other first? General Ross, the highest-ranking Air Force Lieutenant General, made the decision directly. No matter whether they are on our side or not, we must shoot them down first. Wait, what is that? It looks like another exoskeleton. Suddenly a colonel pointed at the projection screen and exclaimed. Everyone looked over. At some point, a silver-white armor appeared next to the golden-red armor. Damn it, they are organized. Shoot them all down. Ross's beard trembled. From a distance, Leon saw 2 armors moving back and forth in the hail of bullets. He accelerated and flew to the side of the embarrassed Tony. Tony, we haven't seen each other for a while. Why do you look like you've been hanging out in the oil fields? Ah! Tony exclaimed from the golden-red armor. He turned his head and saw Leon and almost attacked. Leon! Maybe next time you appear you could be a little more like a human being instead of a ghost. Tony was really scared. He almost lost his balance in the air. Also, why are you wearing my armor? Leon tilted his head. Of course it's because you took my armor away. He looked back and saw more than a dozen fighter planes chasing him closely. The bullets never stopped pouring down. More than a dozen trajectories in the air blocked most of the escape routes. I mean, why aren't you wearing one of those tight underwear of yours? Tony ducked through a barrage of bullets. Have you forgotten who I am when I'm in Superman's uniform? I can't meet you for the time being. Compared to Tony, Leon's dodging movements seemed very easy. But the main reason is that I want to show you the correct way to use this iron lump. What? Are you saying you brought me the instruction manual for the Mark armor? That's great, that's what I need. Tony curled his lips. What follows next is not in the manual. Watch out. I will not use my own strength during the entire process. Leon memorized the positions of all the fighters behind him and suddenly shouted, Jarvis, deploy the ailerons. With a hiss, the silver-white Mark Roman II armor spread its wings and suddenly slowed down. Jarvis is always so considerate at critical moments. He does whatever you say without any hesitation. Even with Leon's order, Mark's armor fell directly into the group of fighter jets. Hey, what are you doing? Tony was stunned and turned to watch Leon flying behind him. The fighter pilots behind were also dumbfounded. When he turned around, he saw silver-white armor flying beside his cabin, waving at him enthusiastically. Calling the command center. Target no. 3 suddenly slowed down and rushed into our formation. Request to change the attack target. The fleet captain immediately grabbed the radio and shouted frantically. Attack is authorized. Be sure to shoot it down. The command from the command center was issued at the same time. Attack! 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 The fighter group immediately dispersed their formation. Some accelerated forward, while others slowed down and followed behind, surrounding the Mark Roman II in the middle as if they had practiced it hundreds of times. Although they were panicked at first, after deploying the formation, the fighter pilots' smiles almost broke out. In their eyes, the enemy's initiative to enter their encirclement was no different from delivering food. Unit 1 locks on the target. Unit 2 is locked. Continuous reports sounded in the channel, and the captain immediately ordered an attack. Attack! Launch the airborne missiles. Fire! All the bullets fired. Each fighter jet was firing missiles while also using its onboard machine guns to block off evasive space. Leon was under fire from all directions. After being launched, a dozen missiles gained speed very quickly and were able to hit the Mark Roman II within seconds. Leon will naturally not sit idly by. He shut down his propulsion system completely and fell downward in a horizontal parabola. Such an action was totally unexpected by the other party. The missiles attacking from all directions suddenly all landed in front of Mark Roman II. Although under the control of the tracking system, they quickly changed direction. But this encounter caused the speed of the missile swarm to drop drastically to less than 1/3 of its previous speed. Chase downwards. The fighter group also began to turn around. Jarvis, activate the intelligent locking system. Leon used neither supervision nor super strength, and relied entirely on the functions of the Mark Roman II armor itself to fight back. Jarvis moved quickly marking the trajectory of each missile and its current speed on the projection in his helmet. Very good. Leon began to accelerate backwards, with the swarm of missiles chasing him. At this time, their direction of action was completely opposite to Tony's previous direction. Leon, Tony's voice cut into the helmet at this time. What do you want to do? Calm down, try not to attack. We are the invaders now, don't escalate the situation. Their mechas were not registered with the Eagle side. Moreover, the mechas are equipped with thermal weapons. Strictly speaking, they are invaders with bad intentions. It was reasonable for those fighters to shoot them down. I'll do it, don't worry, just watch how I deal with them. Leon replied briefly. He operated the Mark armor and began to accelerate, but he controlled the speed to always be slower than the swarm of missiles behind him. When the missile was extremely close, he suddenly moved away. In just a moment, the acceleration of the armor first decreased and then increased. After the speed changed, he stuck to the side of a missile with a bang. Jarvis, use the electric current to absorb the missile shell and pay attention to shielding the electromagnetic signal to avoid triggering the fuse's sensor. After Leon gave the order, he suddenly increased the power of the propulsion flames ejected from the soles of Mark Roman 2 feet. He starts to accelerate with the missile. Chapter 32 UN-039 Re the best this time. The silver-white armor and the military green missiles seemed to merge into one. The two accelerated together, temporarily distanced themselves from the other missiles, and drew a huge arc in the air. At this time, the other missiles had begun to lose their tracking accuracy and scattered in the air, no longer chasing Leon like a swarm. This is also a sign that the missile is about to explode. Leon estimated the time in his mind, released his hands from the armor at the right time, and moved away from the side of the missile he was controlling. 3, 2, 1, bang! He accelerated rapidly, and when the countdown in his mouth ended, a loud explosion was heard behind him. Boom! Several missiles hit the side of the missile controlled by Leon and exploded prematurely. The air currents in the sky were violently dispersed, and other scattered missiles were affected and immediately detonated. The flames of the explosion immediately spread over the West Coast mountains, and the area within a radius of nearly 1,000 meters was filled with thick, billowing smoke. The pilots in the fighter group were stunned. They couldn't understand why the Mark Roman 2 could evade the missile pursuit so easily. But they soon ran out of time to sit there. Even the strong wind in the sky could not disperse the smoke from dozens of missiles exploding simultaneously in a short period of time. The fighter jets had no time to react and all plunged into the thick black smoke. Target lost, repeat, target lost. The captain reported. Speed up and get out of the line of sight blocked area. Continue chasing, and never let the enemy escape. The command center ordered. However, Leon did not take the opportunity to escape, but turned around and flew towards the aftermath of the explosion. Give me a flight trajectory simulation based on the enemy plane's flight direction and speed, Jarvis. The projection on the face of the armor flashed, and immediately simulated dozens of tracks in the image of the thick smoke. At the same time, Leon made a lot of calculations in his mind, estimated the approximate time, and accelerated into the smoke. He quickly approached one of the tracks. Prepare to turn, Jarvis. As soon as he finished speaking, a fighter plane suddenly appeared in front of Mark Roman 2, breaking through the black fog. Just as it was about to collide, the armor suddenly stopped and turned, flying upwards. The pilot in the fighter plane was frightened and his eyes widened, but he reacted immediately, maneuvering the plane to climb, while pressing one of the hundreds of control buttons in the cabin, opening the weapons bay, and operating the machine gun to fire bullets. Unit 13 has found the target. Report. Unit 13 has found the target. Attack! Attack! The captain ordered. Unit 13 was chasing closely behind Leon, and several bullets hit Mark Roman 2, causing Leon's body to sway. This made the pilot of Unit 13 even more excited. He pushed the thrusters to the bottom and chased Leon at high speed, but suddenly Mark Roman 2 turned again. The pilot was stunned and was about to follow when suddenly another fighter plane rushed out from the black fog in front of him. The pilot quickly raised the fuselage, but it was too late. The bottoms and tops of the two planes collided, and the friction at high speed directly destroyed most of the fuselages. Flames and black smoke immediately came out of the fighter plane, and its engine and exhaust systems were damaged, making it unable to continue flying. The pilot of plane No. 13 pushed down the rudder helplessly, letting the plane fall, pulled the parachute device, and ejected from the cabin. Unit 13 has crashed. Eject now. However, the other fighter plane that suffered an unexpected disaster was even worse. The fighter's glass was directly destroyed and the pilot fell into coma instantly. It was only because Leon noticed something was wrong, turned back, and helped pull the pilot out of the cabin that the pilot was prevented from crashing with the fighter plane. On the other side, Pilot No. 13 also found something wrong. He opened his parachute in the air and saw two planes falling at the same time below, but there was no second voice reporting the damage in the audio, so he hurriedly asked for help. Unit 7 and I collided and fell at the same time. He has no signal. He may be being chased by the enemy. Request rescue. Mayday! Mayday! The more passionately they shouted attack before, the louder they shouted mayday now. Soon Lion heard the sound of planes diving down from the clouds. It was obvious that the remaining planes were heading to the rescue. He had a strange look on his face. It looks like this exhibition match is over. Looking down at the pilot in his hands, he landed considerately, put the other person on the ground, and then flew towards Los Angeles himself. Good luck to you then, buddy. The fighter jets were busy rescuing people. Although the command center saw the Mark Roman 2 leaving through the satellite, they knew it was too late to give chase and could only pound the table helplessly. Damn it! They got away. Ross was furious. Send me more Air Force teams. It's too late, General. Rode analyzed bluntly, judging from the acceleration the other party has shown several times, it's impossible to catch up now. Fake. On the other side, Leon and Tony met up. The two flew back to the beach villa together. Given the size and speed of the Mark armor, it cannot be tracked home as long as it is not captured by satellites. And Jarvis helped to guard the satellite, so the two of them flew leisurely. I didn't use any weapons, right? Just like you requested, there was no direct confrontation and no casualties. Leon said, but after watching what I did just now, do you feel like you've been taught a lesson? He focused on asking Tony how he felt. After all, he went there just to show off in front of Tony. I have been thinking about this for a long time. But he also cared about Tony. After all, Tony has close relations with many people in the military, and he will most likely announce his identity as Iron Man later. So in order to avoid a rift between Tony and the military, he did as Tony said throughout the process and did not initiate an attack. In the end, they even saved a pilot. Good. Tony was speechless for a moment because he really felt it was amazing. Jarvis had just transmitted the Mark Roman 2 images to him in real time. Lion's precise control of speed, time, and direction is something he can't do now. Tony hadn't even thought that the armor could fight as flexibly as Leon just did. After all, he has just started using it and has not flown it a few times. He thinks that the Mark armor should be controlled like Leon, which is really cool. Of course, Tony would never admit defeat. You just used your powers, didn't you? That must be it. Tony lied to himself. Absolutely not. Jarvis knows everything about Mark Roman 2. He can guarantee it for me. Lion presented the evidence. Jarvis immediately cooperated. Yes, sir, Master Leon was just controlling the armor the whole time, and all the data is normal. Of course Tony knew this fact, he was just being stubborn. But you shot down 2 fighter planes, but you didn't deal with the other side peacefully, which is still not good enough. Leon was happy to tease Tony. I didn't use any weapons, nor did I take the initiative to attack. Can you blame me for the opponent's mistakes? Tony, you are not so strict with yourself. Okay, my dear Leon, considering that you prepared dinner for me, I admit that you are more powerful this time. Tony raised his hands in surrender. Thank you for the compliment, Tony. As long as you keep working hard, you will be as good as me one day. Upon hearing this, Leon immediately showed a relieved expression. But what dinner are you talking about? Tony looked stunned. Don't tell me you didn't prepare dinner. I'm so hungry now that I can eat all the cheeseburgers in Los Angeles. Actually, I didn't do it. I went to rescue our soldier Tony right after the strength test, and I didn't have time to prepare dinner. Leon gave an answer that disappointed Tony. Then order takeout, Tony suggested. I agree. While you're waiting for the takeaway, Maybe you can take this opportunity to give Rhodes a message and tell him that you're the Iron Man who's causing the military so much trouble today. Why tell him? Tony was puzzled. It will expose my identity. With your flamboyant style, you will be exposed sooner or later. It's better to inform Rhodes in advance so that he can be mentally prepared and help cover for you. Oh, what you said seems to make sense, Leon. When did you learn all this? Did you learn it from scheming with little girls in school? I learned it when I stopped you from bringing a strange woman home when we were kids. Then you really have to thank me. The voices of the two talking gradually faded into the wind. Under the orange sunset, the sea surface undulated like maple trees in late autumn. In the reflection, 3 mechas flew into Stark's mansion together. Chapter 33 News about Superman. A few days passed quickly. The Stark family remained calm. Leon checks in every day to bask in the sun, waiting for the start of the new year of university. As usual, Tony didn't go to work. As soon as he got up every day, he ran to the Middle East with buttered bread in his mouth. According to him, the inherently evil 10 Rings gang will soon disappear from the world. Moreover, ever since he talked with Rhodes, he has never been caught by the military again. As for Pepper, she was very angry when she found Tony coming home with his armor full of bullet holes the evening before yesterday. But as usual, she couldn't do anything about Tony. After getting angry, she still worked diligently every day to shoulder the huge responsibility of developing the Stark Group. This is the daily life of the Stark family. Just like the sea outside the mansion, there are occasional waves, but most of the time it is calm as if there is no worry. But for the world, the impact of Superman's appearance began to ferment and undercurrents were surging in all directions. KNKV-TV reported. In the morning, after Leon came back from morning exercise in the space and made breakfast, he saw the Superman news reported by the local TV media KNKV on TV. It seems beyond doubt that Superman has appeared in our world. The female host held the script with a serious expression. Although he has not reappeared in the past few days, countless people are still proving his existence and praying for his reappearance. What he did that night changed the world forever. As the voice fell, the news screen switched to a noisy press conference. There was only one middle-aged Afghan man with half-white hair and beard on the podium. Flashlights of all sizes kept lighting up in the audience, but his eyes were always staring at the camera with a bright look. It was Superman who saved our country and our people. He tried to raise his voice as loud as he could, as if trying to make his words more deafening. I had the pleasure of photographing him that night. He was fighting for us. He is the Superman, the support of all things. He has no origin and no destination, and nothing can be his enemy. He is our God and our Savior. The Father is in him, and he and the Father are one. At the same time, someone behind the middle-aged man brought a thick screen, which lit up and began to play the scene of Superman facing the missile. Look at him. How great he is. He drives away all the jackals, and we are all his lambs. The man shouted loudly to the camera. The scene finally ends here, and the perspective jumps back to KNKV Live newsroom. The female anchor sat upright. The man in the picture is Abdullah, an Afghan war correspondent. He filmed Superman's first appearance and shouted at the press conference that Superman is the reincarnation of the Holy Spirit of God. During this period, countless people stepped in front of the camera and spoke out about their experiences as Superman came to life. The screen jumps again. A little girl told a reporter confidently that night 2 bad guys tried to break in, but Superman suddenly showed up and stopped them. The girl's father also said, Superman said that the 10 Rings will soon be far away from us, and he did it. Not only that, now even the eagles. The rest of the words were not released and the news screen jumped to another person. He fell from the sky. Like a shooting star. I didn't make a wish, but he killed the terrorist who wanted to force my sister. A boy described it with his hands and feet dancing. There are many more scenes like this. There's a short clip of Afghan guards saluting a photo of Superman. There is a scene where everyone in a dilapidated village shouts Superman in tears in front of a rice field. And also the relevant material was played for 5 minutes before the live broadcast screen switched back to the studio. As more and more people confirm the existence of Superman, we have to start thinking about what kind of impact he will have on our society. Is he like Superman in the comics, righteous and selfless, like a god on Earth? Or is he just a parody in uniform, using the name of Superman to satisfy his own vanity? According to our correspondent, yesterday a large number of our returning soldiers were forced to give up their assistance to the local residents due to the oppression of the Superman. Whether he is a dictator or a hypocrite wearing a mask, we don't know and cannot make a correct judgment immediately. Next, let's listen to the analysis of sociologist Francis Wyndham. Leon propped his chin up, watching with great interest the scholar who had just appeared giving an eloquent analysis of Superman. From the analysis of comics to reality, from clothing to childhood, the story is told as if it were true, and the final conclusion is that Superman is a paranoid who loves to drink milk. The analysis process was full of quotations from classics, and Leon almost believed it himself. Are you reading these boring reports again? Haven't you had enough after so many days? Tony came down from upstairs. Either they are full of praise, or they are completely extreme and derogatory. What's so good about these views? Especially these TV stations, they have received political funds and want to portray you as a complete villain. It's something like this. Why do you always enjoy watching it? He threw a rolled-up newspaper on the table and sat down next to Leon. And look at what these people write. It's all about Superman. Haven't they read comics? They're so excited when a Superman appears. Leon glanced down. The newspaper said, "A mysterious mecha man has appeared in the Middle East again, a poor imitation of Superman." It turns out the problem lies here. Tony worked very hard for several days and basically wiped out the Ten Commandments gang in most of the Middle East. However, almost all media reported little about him. Even if it was reported, he was only mentioned briefly and then the topic was immediately shifted to Superman. No wonder Tony is so resentful. He is not someone who likes to travel at night in fancy clothes. Maybe you can buy a newspaper and have them write reports specifically for you. How about the title, Iron Man Reappears, a Hero Protecting Civilians in the Middle East? Tony raised his eyebrows. That's a good suggestion, but you know I'm not the kind of vain person. I'm just helping you, Leon. Come on, if you really want to help me, you might as well give some money to the media so that they will learn to tell the truth. Leon said. Tony got up and went to the table to get a piece of bread. I can do that if you want, he said as he ate, but do you really think you need it? No need. Leon still propped up his chin. Once I destroy Hydra and show my strength, the media will naturally speak for me. That's the point. Tony tapped the screen with his index finger in agreement. The media's tongue only praises those who can shut them up. Chapter 34 Abdullah and 039's video. But I still don't understand, how did you gain so many loyal fans just by going to Afghanistan for one night? Tony waved the bread in his hand. You mean believers? Almost. Especially that reporter who looks like he's been through a lot. He tells the media every day that you are the true Holy Spirit. He's a complete fanatic. You mean Abdullah don't know what's wrong with him? Maybe this is the simple customs of the people there. I thought you brainwashed him, you know, like Clark and Superman who can manipulate other people's memories. Tony waved his hands in the air. I would love to have this ability. It sounds cool. Leon complained. What's the exciting method? Tell me about it. It's better if you just want to hear it instead of already having a picture in your head. Where was I just now? Oh yeah, that Abdullah, he said in the interview that you saved his life. Here's what happened. He was within the blast range of the Jericho missile. I rescued him and asked him to help spread the video and pass on the message. So he's that guy. Tony suddenly realized he appeared in the video you asked Jarvis to send me. No wonder he looked so familiar. Leon raised his head. You seem to be paying attention to him. Tony chewed the bread in his mouth. He said that in order to thank you, he planned to use all the money to buy Warner stock, so I asked Pepper to acquire Warner. You know how to make big money. Leon's mouth twitched. Don't say that. The whole world is paying attention to Superman now. After the acquisition of Warner, Stark Group's stocks have risen. Tony finished his bread and began to lick his fingers. I'm more curious about how you negotiated this acquisition. Now that people all over the world are paying attention to DC, there's no reason for them to sell the company. Tony took a piece of paper and wiped his fingers. Some other keyballs and the country, you know, are putting pressure on their companies, so I took the opportunity to enter. How do you get in? If you don't even sell arms anymore, how can you still be qualified to get in? But I'm selling this now. Tony tapped the arc reactor on his chest. New energy, everyone wants it. Leon's eyes widened slightly. You exposed your identity? Tony looked around, turned around twice, and raised his hands. Almost. Rod let the cat out of the bag. Oh, that guy's mouth is like a public service area. He can't keep any secrets. Leon didn't believe it at all. Come on, Rhodes was just being humorous. How can he work in a confidential department if he is so careless? He guessed. I think you are just jealous of Superman's traffic, so you are actively exposing yourself to the public, hoping to attract all the attention to yourself. Tony stopped talking. He looked at the ceiling, pretended to be busy, patted his body, and the next moment turned around and left. I was helping you relieve stress. So many people are paying attention to you and misunderstanding you. Shouldn't I stand up and set an example? He waved back. Okay, I'm leaving. Today is my last day in the Middle East. The 10 rings will no longer exist. By the way, Tony walked out the door and suddenly turned back. I have a press conference tomorrow. Remember to attend. Looking at Tony's back, Leon's super brain was sunk. Half a minute later, the sound of the iron armor igniting and taking off was heard outside the house. Isn't it possible that Tony is planning to hold a press conference tomorrow to reveal his identity as Iron Man? Leon looked out the window at the Mark III disappearing into the horizon and remained silent for a long time. He thought about it many times. The appearance of Iron Man as the beginning of major events in Marvel movies is likely to be an absolute time point. In other words, there is a high probability that Tony will say I am Iron Man no matter what. For this reason, Leon also guessed a lot of reasons that might lead Tony to admit his identity as Iron Man. But he could never have imagined that the reason for revealing his identity was just to earn traffic. This world is so crazy. Leon couldn't help but curse. Forget it. Tony won't die anyway, so just ignore him. What's more important is to get some sun. Leon patted his butt, stood up, tore open his shirt, instantly transformed into Superman, and flew into space. Shield. Nick Fury has dark circles under his eyes although he is completely black. But at this moment, his bags under his eyes looked particularly dark and large, like a piece of black coal hanging on an ink bottle. Is this your investigation report? He put down the documents in his hand and looked up and asked Coulson in front of him. The information in there is not as much as what was exposed on TV. At least they interviewed all the local people. Coulson lowered his head. I'm sorry, Chief. Superman hasn't appeared since that day, and we can't find any clues. However, the video played on TV actually contains a lot of information. As he spoke, Coulson took out a tablet and handed it to Nick Fury. Nick Fury's eyelids twitched when he saw the familiar action of his men. Then he saw Coulson light up the screen and start playing a video that he had watched hundreds of times in the past few days. The video content is divided into 3 parts. The first part was filmed by the Afghan journalist Abdullah, showing Superman resisting vehicle-mounted missiles and Jericho missiles. The second part is what Abdullah told Eagle on behalf of Superman. All foreign troops, leave the border immediately and abandon the invasion. The third part is the reporter's personal opinion. He spent a whole hour preaching the greatness of Superman, spreading the faith of Superman, and trying hard to link Superman with Allah. Although he didn't know how many hundred times he had watched this video, Nick Fury still watched it patiently. Because the first part of the video is the strongest display of power Superman has ever shown in a battle. And it just so happened that this time, no official satellite could record it completely. The only relatively comprehensive information is the video released by this reporter, which is of great significance for studying Superman's strength. After the video ended, Nick Fury looked at Coulson and asked, "What conclusion did you draw from this?" "Director, it is obvious that Superman's strength, at least his defense and speed, exceeds that of all creatures and even weapons on Earth." Coulson chose his words carefully, whether he is Superman in the comics or not. Based on the power he has demonstrated, our best option is to make friends with him and stabilize his emotions. Yeah, Nick Fury nodded. He stroked the pager in his hand. Then tell me, is his personality extreme and rebellious? Do we need to suppress him? Suppression? Coulson was stunned. Excuse me, Director, but we don't seem to have such means. Nick Fury glanced at his pager. I mean, assuming there is, do you think it is necessary to do it? Chapter 35, The Female Agent Under the Bed. Coulson didn't answer immediately this time. He thought seriously for a few seconds. I don't think there is any need to suppress Superman. What's the reason? Nick Fury looked at Leon, who was unharmed in the sea of fire in the video, with an expressionless face. Although Superman only appeared once, and he was extremely tough in destroying the Eagle's military base and ordering them to withdraw, Coulson explained according to his own understanding, but he didn't hurt any innocent people in the process. He has a very clear purpose, and he even takes the initiative to help the vulnerable groups who are being bullied. All the local people who came into contact with him had a very good impression of him and were filled with gratitude. So, comprehensively speaking, he is more like a benefactor or a judge who has relatively positive values and strictly acts accordingly. When faced with such people, if we suppress them, it will easily lead to strong resistance from them, creating huge conflicts and making the situation out of control. Nick Fury nodded in approval. This was also the question he had been thinking about these days. When facing a Superman with a moral bottom line, showing goodwill is the best option. But what Nick Fury hates most is this feeling of being out of control. So even though I've figured out the best way to treat Superman, but he still couldn't help wanting to defeat or subdue the other party and bring him completely under his control. What if, we are strong enough to defeat him easily? Do you have any other suggestions? Nick Fury felt that if Captain Marvel took action, he would be able to defeat this so-called Superman with ease. Coulson fell into deep thought this time. He thought about it carefully and still shook his head. I still think I shouldn't do it. Why? Nick Fury frowned, and the flesh on his dark face was squeezed together. We still haven't figured out Superman's true abilities, Commissioner. If he's really like the Superman in the comics, he can become stronger by basking in the sun. Coulson took a breath and said, once we attack, unless we kill the opponent, we will face an enemy that is getting stronger and whose future is unpredictable. You think so? Nick Fury stared at Superman on the screen, as if he wanted to get in and see what kind of person the other person was. The room was silent for a few seconds. I have to admit, you are quite right, Coulson. Okay, your mission this time is over. Next, you will coordinate the personnel and continue to keep an eye out for Superman. Once he shows up, try to contact and win him over. Nick Fury finally spoke. He put the pager back in the drawer and instructed Coulson. Also, remember to control public opinion on the internet. Don't let it be one-sided. and don't let too much negative information arouse Superman's malice. Yes, Chief. Kelson took the documents and tablet and left consciously without showing any dissatisfaction with being assigned tasks continuously. Perhaps this is the legendary innate working holy body. Nick Fury waited until Kelson closed the door and left before leaning back in his seat and turning to look out the window. He pulled out a Superman comic from the side, flipped through it casually, and then threw it back. The world is not peaceful anymore. We need to speed up the plan. As for the agents, there is only one female agent at level 7, Iron Knight. That's not enough die. Jarvis kindly reminds you that it is time to end another enjoyable sunbath. Leon pressed the button in the spacecraft listlessly, opened the hatch, and then returned to Earth in boredom. Recently, the speed of strength growth has been getting faster and faster. When basking in the sun, every cell in the body feels like it is flying on a rocket, and the refreshing feeling makes Leon unable to stop. Unfortunately, experiments to test the body's upper limits require controlled variables. Therefore, for the past month, the time he spent in space exposed to direct sunlight had to be fixed every day. Otherwise, he felt that he could even live in the universe and never go back. Wherever there is sunshine, that is home. It only takes a dozen seconds to get back to the mansion on the Los Angeles coast. Leon pushed the door open and glanced at the time displayed on the electronic screen on the wall. It's only 4 in the afternoon. Tony probably won't be back until 7 or 8. After I finish my strength test, I'd better have dinner by myself. He talked to himself and arranged his next plan. Then he went back to his room and prepared to change into casual home clothes. But after 2 steps he stopped, his right foot still hanging in the air. Tony, you're back so early today? Leon's ears moved, and he seemed to have heard a second heartbeat in the room just now. You have to know that he keeps his super hearing suppressed at all times, and normally he can only hear the sounds he wants to hear. At this moment, the sound of heartbeat suddenly broke into his ears, which meant that the other person was very close to him. It was so close that even with suppressed super hearing, one could clearly make out the slow and regular rise and fall of a strong heart. After waiting for a few seconds, as expected, there was no response from Tony. Although Tony usually didn't pay much attention to people when he was doing experiments, this time was a little different. Because the heartbeat was right in Tony's room, but it didn't sound as weak as Tony's. Leon narrowed his eyes and did not ask Jarvis, but directly turned on the perspective. The world quickly became transparent, and layers of barriers gradually disappeared. Leon's perspective seemed to have transformed into a ghost, lurking into Tony's room, passing through the huge and soft warm bed, and saw Natasha. Leon looked strange. Why is she here? And lurking under Tony's bed, under Tony's 3-meter-wide bed, at a foot less than 30 centimeters high, there was actually a woman with a beautiful figure hiding. Her burgundy shoulder-length hair was wet and hanging on the ground, her eyes were closed, her hands were hanging at her sides, and she was breathing slowly, like a sleeping beauty. But combined with the fact that she was lying on her back under the bed, it looked like there was a vegetable growing under Tony's bed. Leon was a little uneasy. As soon as I got home, I saw the famous Black Widow hiding under my brother's bed. It was too suffocating. Why not hide under his bed? That's really enviable. No, that's really disgusting. Leon couldn't figure it out. Even if Tony blew up his own truck and told the military and those in the political and business circles that he was Iron Man, that wouldn't lead to S.H.I.E.L.D. directly sending Natasha to hide under Tony's bed. Is this a kidnapping, or is it about jumping into bed and fighting Tony in the dead of night? Leon doesn't remember female S.H.I.E.L.D. agents engaging in such low-level lurking. Jarvis, has anyone come to our house since I left today? After thinking about it, Leon decided to ask Jarvis first. No, Master Leon, I blocked all the entrances after you left. Chapter 36 Kidnapping Stark. Everything? Are the sewers and the like also blocked? Or has anyone blocked you today? I have kept it running and there is no record of any shielding. However, the sewer shouldn't be considered an entrance. Jarvis was stuck. Look, even the artificial intelligence Jarvis is confused. Who would be a good person and crawl into the house through the sewer? However, looking at the wet Natasha under Tony's bed, she looked like she must have crawled in from the sewer. I guess Tony will be able to smell the body fragrance left by the beautiful lady when he goes to sleep tonight. Leon whispered a blessing to Tony. Thinking about the smell of the sewer, he laughed out loud. But it was enough for Tony to smell it. Leon had no intention of leaving Natasha under the bed. No matter what she wanted to do, since she was doing it secretly, it was obviously not a good thing. Jarvis asked, "You mean to say that a woman sneaked into Mr. Stark's bedroom?" "That's right, and she is resting with her eyes closed under the bed." Leon stroked his chin with interest. "Let's see what this outstanding agent is going to do. Jarvis, cooperate with me later." "Okay, Master Leon." Leon put on one earphone, walked towards Tony's room and pushed the door open. As soon as he entered the room, he pretended to look around and deliberately made his footsteps very heavy. "Jarvis, are you sure you detected a strong, unusual smell in Tony's room?" "It's impossible. He hasn't asked any beautiful women home these days." "How could there be an unusual smell in the room?" "Yes, sir. The air system detected an abnormal odor factor." Jarvis cooperated. "Impossible, unless Tony is solving his physiological problem himself. Where does the smell come from?" "And I don't think there's any smell here. Sniff. Sniffug." Leon sniffed a few times, suddenly stepped back, held onto the door frame and retched a few times. This was not a planned disguise, but his super sense of smell was very sensitive in capturing the strong stench of decay in the room, especially when he deliberately took a few deep sniffs, looking for any strange smell. The sudden stench seemed to penetrate into his stomach, causing it to churn. "What's that smell?" "It smells like a dried salted fish that was soaked in a swill bucket and swollen, and then pickled in a cucumber jar for 3 days and 3 nights. Leon gritted his teeth and immediately suppressed his super sense of smell. "Master Leon," Jarvis asked quietly in Leon's earphones, "your acting is really good. If the air system hadn't detected any abnormalities, you would have almost fooled my logic. No, I do smell a bad odor. The other party should have used chemical deodorizing props, but the smell still can't be hidden from my nose." Leon rubbed his nose and explained in a low voice. "Just keep cooperating with me," he whispered. Then he covered his nose and walked to the bed, asking loudly, "The smell is indeed a bit strong. What on earth did Tony do, Jarvis? You just said that the source of the odor is under the bed." "Yes, the source of the odor molecules is under the bed." "Do you need me to operate the sweeping robot to clean it up?" Jarvis said through the external speaker. "No need." Leon half crouched down and knelt on one knee. "I suspect there is a life-size doll of Tony underneath. If you clean it up, he will be angry. So I just took it out and washed it." I can't believe how Tony could have the heart to do something so stinky. He held the edge of the bed with his left hand and reached under the bed with his right hand, as if he was going to take something out from underneath. Call out. Suddenly something unexpected happened. Leon's right hand was about to reach under the bed. A soft, pitch-black whip was thrown out from the blind spot and wrapped around Leon's arm 3 times, like a python strangling its enemy. The next moment, a force so weak that it was barely noticeable came from the whip. Leon calculated that his arm strength was about 2.5 times that of Tony. But for ordinary people, this can be considered a huge force. Leon couldn't help but feel surprised. Natasha used such great strength, coupled with the sudden force, that it was enough to break the hand bones of an ordinary person. He's so ruthless. He's definitely more than just lurking. Could it be that S.H.I.E.L.D. really wants to take action against Tony? Leon's distraction eased a little, and now he had to continue the test for the time being. He pretended to be caught off guard and cried out in surprise, then fell in the direction of the whip's force. Ah! He fell on his back and cried out in pain. The next moment, Natasha jumped out from under the bed like a poisonous snake out of its hole. Or rather, it slipped out. She kicked hard on the bedpost and used the reaction force to slide out, wrapping her legs around Leon's waist like bones. Then push your hands toward the ground and use your waist to exert force. She actually grabbed Leon and threw him into the air, then slammed him down to the ground. Then, there was a heavy fall, and Leon cried out in pain, then found that his posture had actually hit the back of his head, so he immediately closed his eyes and began to faint. Natasha took a breath, turned Leon's shoulder and took a casual look and confirmed that the target was unconscious. She is extremely confident in her skills. The fighting training she received since childhood made it impossible for her to fail to kill ordinary people in seconds. Nice chest muscles. She also glanced at his chest, patted it in amazement, and finally gave her comments. Ma'am, you are now violating Stark's private territory and personal safety. Please stay away from Mr. Lyon and leave here immediately, otherwise I will notify the police immediately, Jarvis threatened tacitly. Oh, really? Natasha dragged out a black tactical backpack from under the bed and took out ropes and guns. She waved the gun. If you call the police, this gun will be pointed at your master. After saying that, she ignored Jarvis and fired several shots to smash various electronic equipment in the room. She turned back and turned Leon over and tied him up tightly with ropes. She even checked Leon's vital signs and confirmed that he was just in a coma and not in danger of life. The headphones Leon was wearing were also discovered and destroyed by her in the process. Then she stood up and started reporting by pressing the communicator in her cochlear implant. General Dreykov, Natasha is reporting. After waiting for a few seconds and getting permission from the other party, she spoke again. There was an accident during the mission. The target's brother, Leon Stark, discovered me using his home artificial intelligence. We are requesting to change the plan now. We will no longer kidnap Tony Stark, but use Leon Stark to threaten him so as to obtain energy and armor technology. After a few seconds, a flat male voice came from the other end of the line. Agree to change the plan. Got it. Natasha's eyes were calm, with neither hatred nor joy. She took out the communication device in her ear and prepared to implement a new kidnapping plan. However, when she turned around, she saw that Leon, who was supposed to be unconscious, had opened his eyes at some point and was looking straight at her. It sounds like you're not working for S.H.I.E.L.D. now. Leon's expression was intriguing. That's interesting. Chapter 37 Slice Study Natasha. You just mentioned General Dreykov. If I remember correctly, he should be the leader of the Red House, right? Under Natasha's horrified eyes, Leon easily broke free from his restraints, and the ropes tied around his body broke into several sections and scattered on the ground. Which means you are still under the control of the Red House. Leon stood up and patted himself. This is wrong. At this time, you should be. Leon was unable to continue. The moment he lowered his head, Natasha launched her attack without hesitation, even though the man she was facing was strong enough to easily break the high-strength polyethylene rope. Her movements were so swift, like a spider stalking its prey. It was as if when she made her move, the other party had already fallen into her net and could not escape. Facing Leon, who is obviously much stronger than her, Natasha's attack was extremely brutal and went straight to the vital points. Using speed to defeat strength, this is the technique she has used to defeat powerful enemies countless times as a woman. Her punches, elbows, and knees landed on Leon almost in no particular order, and she really used her body to the limit. However, this surprise attack tactic, which always worked, suffered a Waterloo this time. Natasha's face was filled with shock. Leon, who looked only 17 or 18 years old, actually blocked all her attacks at a faster speed, even with just one hand. The hand gently grasped her fist, and she couldn't break free even if she tried her best. It was as if what was gripping her fist was not a hand, but a cold hydraulic clamp. Natasha's expression turned into one of doubt and confusion. But her rich combat experience allowed her to react immediately. She pushed off the ground with both feet and jumped up, about to step on Leon and break her joints to escape. "Hey, don't do that. I don't want to accidentally tear you in half just because you resist." Natasha's body was no better than a piece of paper to Leon. If you accidentally relax your control over your strength during physical contact, the scene that follows can only be described as horrific. As Leon spoke, he wrapped Natasha with a bioforce field, fearing that an accident would destroy Tony's bedroom. But Natasha didn't know this. She just discovered. Facing her violent attack, Leon, who had remained calm, suddenly changed his expression. This made her feel confused. Is the other party afraid that she will get hurt? Who is the super agent who sneaked into the other's house? Natasha couldn't understand. But the next moment, a huge force came along his arm. She was instantly pressed against the wall without any ability to resist. This time, Natasha tried her best but couldn't move it at all. She tried yoga to escape, or tried to cut off her arms to survive. She used self-harm several times to seek opportunities to fight back. But in the face of the overwhelming force behind her, all her struggles were in vain, like an ant bearing its fangs and claws in front of a giant. Slowly her eyes changed, becoming sad, desperate, and even relieved. Almost uncontrollably, she raised her right middle finger and bent it toward the inside of her wrist, trying to trigger a ring device on her wrist. "What else do you want to do?" Suddenly, the back of her neck was grabbed by a large hand and gently squeezed, and she immediately lost consciousness. "It seems that only this way can our Black Widow sister be willing to be quiet for a while." Leon supported Natasha from behind as she collapsed unconscious, changed her position, picked her up, and pushed the door open to walk out of Tony's bedroom. "Master Leon, I'm so glad you're okay." Jarvis immediately expressed his concern. All the electronic equipment in the bedroom had been destroyed by Natasha, and he had no idea what had happened inside. "Come on, Jarvis, you know nothing can happen to me. It is my duty to care about your safety," Jarvis said. "Do you want me to call the police and hand over this intruder to the police?" "No, I think this matter is not simple. This intruder must have some secrets. I have to take her down to study her." Leon said he was curious. Why did the Marvel story, which was supposed to develop linearly, go wrong with Black Widow? Could it be that this world is not the main universe of Marvel's numbered movies, but a branch universe like What If? But this is unlikely. After all, the characters he has seen so far look almost the same as in the movie. He walked down the stairs with speculation. "By the way, when Tony comes back, remember to tell him to order takeout. I should be in the lab tonight." "Okay, Master Leon." Jarvis asked considerately, "Do you need me to shut down the monitoring equipment in the laboratory for you?" Leon's face darkened. Open it all." "What do you think I'm going to do?" "As you say, sir," Jarvis said calmly. "Shut up, I just need to check her out." Leon carried Natasha into the laboratory, cleared the workbench with his right hand, and placed her on it. Then he took off his coat and put on a pair of white medical gloves. His movements were a little awkward, and he looked like an amateur anatomist, much like a medical student who was dissecting a cadaver for the first time. However, no matter how amateur he was, he became the best after he developed the ability to see through things. First, a full body check. "Let me see. Oh, she really has a nice figure." As expected of Natasha, with slim shoulders and a plump butt, very pretty. Let's take a look at other parts first. Leon said he is not a person who likes to take advantage of others. He cleared his mind of distractions and quickly got into the state of mind. His eyes penetrated Natasha's skin and saw the flesh and fascia beneath it. Well, it seems that there is nothing wrong with her body. There is no bomb, no poison pack. There is a locator on her right leg. Besides that, is this thing on your wrist a self-destruct device? Leon stroked his chin, so she actually wanted to use the self-destruct device to commit suicide just now. If the mission cannot be completed, then committing suicide is such an extreme act. It is obviously not Natasha's style. In the movie, Natasha Romanoff would sacrifice herself to save others, and would also give up her life to protect her companions. But when facing an enemy she cannot defeat, she would not even think of giving up, let alone committing suicide. So, it's controlled. I remember the Black Widow movie that I quickly watched in my previous life. Natasha's sister was controlled by the spy organization Red House using chemical means. But that's a decade later. Normally Natasha shouldn't even be in the Red Room at this time. Leon's gaze moved to the top of Natasha's head. He went through layer after layer of vascular networks and brain tissue and examined it carefully, but could not find any problems. Is it that my clairvoyance level is not high enough, or is it that her brain is not under control? When faced with a problem he couldn't understand, Leon became eager to try. He quickly went to the Stark Industrial Park and brought in a series of special instruments including microscopes, magnetoencephalogram detectors, and brain readers. A dozen huge machines surrounded the workbench. Leon rubbed his hands together and said, "Now it's time to test the results of my studies over the past few days." In the past few days since he dealt with the Ten Commandments gang, he has been doing more than just basking in the sun. I also occasionally took the time to learn some biology in my free time. I just didn't expect that this knowledge would come in handy so soon. Leon first dismantled the bomb and tracker on Natasha, and then began to extract cerebrospinal fluid and brain cells for research. The brain functions normally, the nerve nodes are normal, the synaptic transmission is normal. He checked each item one by one, and his hands operated the instruments on the workbench so quickly that after images appeared. When observing a cell slice, he only needs to take a glance to remember the entire image and then draw an analytical conclusion immediately. Sometimes, when he encountered unclear details, he would ask Jarvis to help search for relevant papers on the internet. During the research process, Leon's relevant knowledge reserves have been rapidly improved. He couldn't help but silently think in his heart thanks to Natasha Romanoff. This great female agent used her brain free of charge to help him learn while conducting experiments in an hour, and she successfully grew into an excellent neurologist, chemist, and brain scientist. What a selfless spirit of dedication to science. "Oh, I found it." At one point, Leon, who was working in front of a microscope, shouted with joy. He dared to say that he didn't feel as much sense of accomplishment as he did now when he was basking in the sun every day. Nothing can make people feel more accomplished than reaching the top of a field through their own efforts in a very short period of time and solving a difficult problem. "Master Leon, what did you find?" Jarvis is a qualified supporting actor. "I found the cause of the disease." Leon was a little excited. There is nothing wrong with Natasha's brain structure and organization. But in her cell fluid, I found a foreign chemical. Leon printed out a brain view. This chemical is affecting her basal ganglia, and therefore her consciousness. If I'm not mistaken, she actually still has self-awareness, but it has been divided into several parts by the drugs. Some of it obeys the orders of others, and some of it has her own thoughts. This confused consciousness will allow her to retain her logical thinking, but lose her emotional judgment, so that she can only obey orders from others. The person who developed this chemical is a genius, but also a devil. Leon cleared the table again. Then the next step is to make a targeted inhibitor. Maybe when she wakes up, we can get an unexpected reward. Chapter 38 Probability of 1 in. For Leon, knowing the cause and working backwards to find a solution is a very simple matter as long as the basic conditions permit. Now that it has been figured out that Natasha was indeed under mind control, the means of control was some kind of chemical substance. Then the remaining step of reversing the inhibitor formula becomes easy. Leon used his supercomputer-like brain to quickly simulate various plans, and then handed them over to Jarvis for real simulation. It only took him 20 minutes to produce a tube of bright red reaction reagent. The success rate is 87%, right? Leon drew a tube of medicine with a syringe. Yes, according to the simulation, there is a 12% chance that the drug will not work and a 1% chance of causing a drug conflict, leading to brain death of the invader, Jarvis said. But this is the limit of what we can do with current medical technology. Leon shrugged. He looked at Natasha and said, if conditions permit, we should even conduct a phase Roman 3 randomized double-blind clinical trial. That is the formal process for drug development. But looking at the patient's condition, I'm afraid there won't be enough time for us to find volunteers for the experiment. On the workbench, Natasha had regained consciousness and was desperately tearing at the ropes on her body, trying to resist. Leon stood aside and pushed the syringe unmoved, a line of liquid gushing out of the sharp needle. Stop struggling. You're about to get an injection. Be careful not to break the needle. Besides, you tied me up once first, so I'll tie you up once too, so we're even. I'm sure Miss Natasha can understand that, right? He met Natasha's bloodshot eyes as she struggled, ignoring the fact that her mouth was sealed with tape. Very good, our patient agreed and chose to receive treatment. But please be mentally prepared. He flicked the syringe to dispel the air bubbles inside. I am an amateur doctor after all. Even though the drug may cause brain death, it's fine as long as it works. Why bother with so much? If something unexpected really happens, we can just say it's survivor bias. In his previous life, Leon was actually a very frugal person with words. It's just that in this life, I was influenced by Tony Stark for more than 10 years. Although he is still the serious young man most of the time, at some critical moments, he sometimes becomes as talkative as Tony. The inhibitor has to be injected into the arm. Do you want to take off your clothes or tear off your sleeves? I see. Tear off the sleeves of your combat uniform, right? Leon tore off Natasha's sleeves, used his strength to control the patient so that she could not move, and applied alcohol to her white upper arms. Very good, Natasha. Now is the final step. You have 1 second to consider whether to give up treatment. 1. Good time. You agreed to continue. Very good. But time is tight now, so you don't need to find someone to sign for your family members. If something unexpected happens, we will directly cremate your body and transport the ashes back to the Red House. Natasha's eyes suddenly widened and she murmured something. Huh? What are you talking about? No need for anesthesia. Don't worry, we don't have any anesthesia here. I'm starting the injection. Leon casually gave Natasha a shot on her arm that had been coated with alcohol. The bright red medicine was quickly injected into the patient's body. Okay, it's over. You see, it doesn't hurt, right? Our treatment is incredibly short. Now we need to press the injection site to prevent bruising, but it doesn't look convenient for you, so I'll do it for you for now. Leon pulled out the empty syringe and pressed Natasha's arm with a cotton swab. However, after putting the syringe back on the tray held by the robotic arm Zyodai, he stopped talking. Instead, he looked at Natasha with a slightly serious expression. Leon's mental activities at this time were not as fancy as the words he spoke. He was just thinking. As one of the main characters in this world, it is impossible for Natasha to hit that 1% probability. Besides, the counter-effect potion was the best he could do at the moment. Even if we really gathered top doctors from all over the world, at most we could reduce the mortality rate of the drug by a few tenths of a percentage point, which wouldn't be much better. When the chemical substances in Natasha's body were synthesized, the researchers probably did not think of formulating an antidote. What they want to create is an unsolvable control potion. Even more than the lives of those being controlled, they care more about the fact that the potion cannot be cracked. Those chemicals are hidden in the cell fluid of Natasha's brain cells, and their removal means the death of brain cells. It also means brain damage and the person being controlled is in danger of death. So, the fact that Lion created the inhibitor was a miracle in itself. As for the 1 percentage point mortality rate, it is completely harmless. It seems that the inhibitor has taken effect. Leon took off his gloves, rinsed them with disinfectant, then took the disinfectant cotton towel handed to him by Benben and wiped his hands clean. He looked at Natasha, whose expression quickly calmed down, and prayed silently for her in his heart for a second. Jarvis, if she really hits that 1% chance of brain death, should it be considered lucky or unlucky? While waiting for the result, Lion had a sudden idea. From a probability perspective, a 1% chance of stepping on something is considered very lucky, Jarvis answered seriously. But from the result point of view, if you go to the lowest probability of death, it is very unfortunate. Your perspective is really objective. Leon complained, but humans don't think like you. When disaster happens to themselves, even the smallest chance becomes a 100% nightmare and an absolute misfortune. So this is how humans think. Jarvis wrote it down. I will try to think this way in the future, Master Lion. That's not necessary. Mechanical thinking is actually your advantage. Many girls like this type of thinking nowadays. Oh, Natasha is awake. Leon saw Natasha's silky eyelashes tremble slightly and immediately walked to the tool bench and took a closer look. Soon, Natasha opened her eyes, her amber pupils were dazed and her expression was distracted. But Leon laughed instead, a look like a fool. That's it. Miss Natasha, congratulations on your successful operation. The dazed look on her face indicated that Natasha's brain had been freed from the control of the chemicals. All her scattered consciousness gradually began to reunite into one. However, it seems that this integration process will still take some time. Leon observed Natasha's changes and pulled off the ropes on her body and the tape on her mouth. Exclamation, exclamation, different from the joy of Leon. As soon as Natasha opened her eyes, she saw a face that was extremely close to her, looking left and right in front of her. Her pupils suddenly shrank and her body moved reflexively. Freeing her hands and feet from the restraints freed her. She used her soft skills to wrap her legs around Leon's strong waist, and with force from her arms, she spun around Leon behind him and used a naked choke. This is the physical memory brought by more than 10 years of agent training and combat experience. After completing the naked choke, she immediately applied force reflexively. However, Leon, who should have been suffocating, did not react at all. Her arm was like it was stuck on a diamond. Natasha was stunned for a moment, and the next moment fragments of memory flooded into her mind. Her expression went blank for a moment and her eyes lost focus. It wasn't until Leon reached out, picked up Natasha and put her on the workbench that she came back to her senses. You saved me. Natasha looked at Leon in front of her with an increasingly complicated expression. She put her hands on her sides, not knowing where to put them, and slowly lowered her head. What have I done? He thought he would be controlled by the Red House for the rest of his life, but unexpectedly, by some strange coincidence, he was redeemed by the target of the mission. When she regained consciousness, countless memories flooded into her mind. She was overwhelmed with emotions, including remorse and hatred, but more of anxiety. It looks like you're recovering well, Leon said. Natasha woke up when she heard this. She sat on the workbench, suddenly at a loss. Thank you very much. No, I'm sorry. I just did it unintentionally. It was subconscious. Sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Are you hurt? Chapter 39. You can come to me if you want to do anything. Natasha's words were a little messy. It can be seen that her emotions are very unstable as she has just recovered her memory, especially since Leon had just saved her. But she acted ungratefully and cruelly. This brought back some deep-seated memories, making her feel ashamed and uneasy. Don't mind it. Leon waved his hand nonchalantly. It was an unintentional mistake. Besides, you can't hurt me. Natasha clenched her palms and suddenly remembered that she had been subdued by the man in front of her without any ability to fight back. She will probably never forget the power that crushes all other skills. She subconsciously looked around with her peripheral vision, trying to calm herself down. Thank you. Natasha glanced at Yanning's body inconspicuously, but shook her head to thank him again. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for not minding my offense just now. Leon was about to say something, but Natasha continued. Maybe this is just a piece of cake for you, but it means a lot to me. Natasha seemed very sincere. She got down from the workbench and looked at Leon. You gave me a second chance at life, Mr. Stark. And it's not just me. Natasha's expression became solemn, but also the other widows. We will all owe you our lives. The agents trained in the Red House are called widows. The most outstanding widow who can break the highest record of her predecessors is given the title of Black Widow. It is one of the most ruthless and poisonous spiders in the world. The same is true for the agent who was given this title. I can't repay your life-saving kindness. If you need any help in the future, just ask, Natasha said seriously. I will do my best. She gently stroked Leon's cheek with her hand, and her warm breath sprayed on the strong jawline. But please forgive me, I have to leave now. Her expression became conflicted, reluctant, and extremely painful. If you lose contact with the Red House for too long, they will come after you. I can't hold you back. Others need me to save them too. Natasha was a decisive person. As soon as she regained consciousness, she began planning her revenge on the Red House. There was a flash of determination in her eyes, and she suddenly stood on tiptoe and kissed Leon lightly on the side of his face. Thank you, Leon. Her voice was so gentle, like cotton wool blown by the wind, and like she was saying goodbye to her lover with full love. After the kiss, she slowly stepped back, her jade eyes fixed on Leon. It was like the princess in a fairy tale who was awakened from her deep sleep by the prince's kiss, but had to face her vicious mother alone. After retreating to a distance of 5 meters, she turned around abruptly, leaving behind a lonely figure. That back view is so lonely and determined, vividly highlighting Natasha's psychological characteristics of being willing to sacrifice heroically for her companions and rush into the sea of fire for her savior. Leon looked at Natasha and touched the side of his face. His reflection on the laboratory glass seemed dazed and stupid, like a young boy who suddenly fell in love. Wait, Natasha, he suddenly called. Natasha's resolute back paused. She turned her head slightly, leaving only half of her sad profile. Sorry, Leon, I have to go. No, what I mean is that we're not that familiar with each other yet. It's appropriate for you to call me Mr. Stark. Leon sighed and pinched his nose. Then he muttered quietly, This rotten fish smell is really strong this time. Natasha was completely frozen, standing there like a wooden figure. She turned back after a few seconds, her expression hesitant. Calling you, Mr. Stark. It seemed that she didn't hear Leon's complaints about her body odor. That's right. Leon leaned against the workbench. Natasha Romanoff, born in 1984, is the most outstanding Black Widow bred by the Red House. She has dozens of backup identities around the world. She is a master of individual combat and psychological warfare. Faced with a world-class agent like you, I am really flattered to be called by my name and kissed goodbye all of a sudden. I have to say that's a pretty good charm technique. Leon teased, It's just that little bit. I'm going to rush over to hug you, and then say that I will accompany you through the mountains of swords and the sea of fire ahead. Natasha's expression changed. She realized that her little thoughts were seen through. The hesitant expression slowly calmed down. Wow, I didn't expect that the second young Master Stark, who was the most mediocre in the information, was so hidden. Are you a CIA agent? Please, this is the internet age. I have what you call home artificial intelligence. A lot of information is easy to collect. Besides, what do you mean by the most mediocre? I was admitted to Columbia University at least. Leon paused and spread his hands. Look, Natasha, I know your past. And I'm not a rich kid who fantasizes about fairy tales even when he's grown up. So the tactics of playing hard to get are really unnecessary. although it looks like you're just acting casually and without any real effort. But can we please simplify the way we talk? Leon stood up, waved to Benben, and ordered 2 cups of coffee. He handed the coffee to Natasha. Have something hot. When was the last time you drank coffee consciously? Don't tell me it was 10 years ago. Natasha took the coffee with a natural smile without showing any embarrassment. Thank you. The last time I drank coffee like this was a year and a half ago. Leon raised his eyebrows. So you were completely controlled by the Red House more than a year ago? You seem to know a lot, Master Leon. Natasha walked to Leon's side, leaned on the workbench with him, half tilted her head to look at him, looking petite and beautiful. She was using her little tricks to seduce Leon again. Come on, is it your habit to extract information by tempting others? Leon pointed to the coffee cup and said, if you have any questions, you can ask them directly. This can save a lot of testing costs. Natasha is truly a beauty among beauties. Now in her 20s, her every move is naturally charming, and her every frown and smile is captivating. However, Leon had just seen Natasha's bloody internal organs and red and white brain, and smelled the odor of her coming out of the sewer. Therefore, he did not have any desire to have any unrealistic thoughts in the short term. I didn't expect that as the younger brother of the most famous playboy in the United States, Master Leon is also a gentleman. Natasha put away her charming smile and her face became much more serious. As a master of psychology, what she knows best is to cater to the other person's preferences. Leon's current demand is to exchange information efficiently, and she is happy to do so. That's not necessarily true. It's just that the time is not right now. You can try it in a different setting next time. I will definitely fall for it. Leon took 2 sips of coffee and said, by the way, don't act out the farewell scene of an ignorant girl just now. Only the second-generation rich will be tempted by such a story. I suggest that when you make a move on me, you should wear black stockings directly, which will be more effective. Good suggestion. I will try it next time. Natasha nodded. So, Mr. Stark, why do you know so much about me? She added, don't tell me it was found by artificial intelligence. Most of that information is confidential and is not stored online. I see. Leon made a cross with his hands. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you about this. It's a secret. Natasha tilted her head. Is this what you call a direct question? Letting you ask a question doesn't mean I have to answer it. Leon answered the question irrelevantly. Before you ask me, I want to ask, was that your attitude towards your lifesaver just now? He held up a finger. First you woke up and attacked me. Oh, that was an accident, and then you did sincerely thank me and apologize. But after recalling the memory of your previous fight with me, you immediately started to seduce me again. That's to get me to offer to help you deal with the Red House, right? The worst thing is that after you turned around, you secretly observed my reaction from the reflection in the glass. What? I just saved you, and you just said you would thank me, and now you turn around and want to drag me into a dangerous place. Leon slapped his thigh and said, the contrast between you before and after is so great that it makes me feel like I'm being taken advantage of. I apologize. Natasha raised her hands. I apologize again. It's my fault for treating you like an ordinary rich kid and trying to take advantage of you. It's also my fault for trying to involve you. I'm sorry. I just woke up and wanted to find an ally who would make me feel safe. Natasha's face showed a bit of pity. After all, you are so strong and a genius with a high IQ. With your help, I will have a better chance of winning. But I promise, if you really chose to help me just now, I would definitely tell you all the real information, even though you don't seem to need it. And my previous promise is true. If you run into any trouble in the future, you can come to me for any request provided that I am still alive. Leon stroked his chin. Is it okay to ask you to do something unspeakable? Okay. As long as it's you, I can accept it. Natasha's eyes hesitated for a moment, then became extremely firm. She was serious. Chapter 40 Reasons for the Timeline Change. Leon realized that Natasha was not joking and stopped smiling. Okay, no need to be so serious. I was just joking, and I take back my disrespectful words just now. He waved to Benben again. Zaya-oben, come and give this lady some more coffee. Now it was Natasha's turn to be surprised. You're apologizing to me? This is nothing like what I thought. Apologize? No, did you misunderstand something? I'm not apologizing, I'm just maintaining my manners and at least not joking about that kind of thing in public. Leon defended. Natasha's eyes were filled with confusion. You actually said that, I mean, you are very different, you don't look like a Stark at all. Maybe it's because I've received another education besides Stark's. Leon raised his glass and clinked it with Natasha. But it's useless no matter how much you praise me. You invaded here and attacked me, and I saved you despite our past grudges. But you ended up plotting something bad. A verbal apology alone is not enough. You're right. Natasha smiled and drank the hot coffee. But I'm really praising you. This is the first time I've heard such words. It sounds really cultured. Thank you for the compliment. This is part of how I package my own image. Leon shrugged. This kind of packaging must be very attractive to little girls. Natasha's eyebrows gradually curved. Maybe then, should we talk about you and the problem of the Red House? Leon put down his coffee cup. What do you want to talk about? Natasha stopped leaning on the workbench. If this is the compensation you want, I will tell you everything I know. I just have one question. How did you come under the control of the Red Room a year and a half ago? Leon asked the question that had been bothering him for a long time. He still couldn't forget it. After all, this is related to his judgment of the universe he lives in. And this was also the purpose of his treatment of Natasha. How was I controlled? Natasha held the coffee cup, looking a little dazed and struggling. To her, it seemed like a long time ago. During the time she was controlled, she committed too many bloody crimes. Even those days when she could only move with her own will seemed much better by comparison. Asking her to recount her experience at that time would be like tearing open the scars from the inside out. It would be better for her to charge into the battle line directly under the hail of bullets. But after struggling for a while, she slowly began to narrate. I was trained and reformed in the Red House when I was young. They brainwashed all the girls. It's just that I persisted in the brainwashing and retained my own will. So when I found the opportunity, I tried to rebel, and then I failed. Natasha's eyes were so empty. She looked at the coffee shaking in the cup, but her vision seemed to travel back to the past. In order to prevent similar incidents from happening again, they stopped brainwashing the girls and started using chemicals to control us. This is how it happens. Natasha said it briefly, as if she were saying that putting an elephant into a refrigerator only requires opening the refrigerator and putting the elephant in. Leon got to the point. You are so capable. Why did your rebellion fail? In the original world line, Natasha should have met Hawkeye around 2006 and then launched an attack on the leader of the Red House in Budapest, the capital of Hungary, and finally successfully defected to join SHIELD. The situation now is completely the opposite. You can't imagine the power of the Red House. The widows are all over the world and no one can resist them. Natasha's shoulders drooped as if they had lost support. Almost 2 years ago, I was attacked by Hawkeye from SHIELD. That was a good opportunity. I tried to get in touch with SHIELD through him. It's just she suddenly looked up at Leon. It has something to do with you, too. In 2006, your Stark company released a revolutionary electronic product. The Red House derived the technology from it and used the complementary technologies to update the smart devices inside. Natasha tilted her head. So when I was in contact with Hawkeye, I was being monitored the entire time, but I was completely unaware of it. At that time, my communication equipment only had ordinary anti-eavesdropping functions. How could anyone have expected that the Red House's communication technology would make such an explosive leap in just a few months? The corner of Leon's mouth twitched. It turned out that Black Widow was caught because she was out of date. The civilian technology in the Marvel world lags far behind the military technology. In 2006, Tony was inspired by him and used many technologies that were previously only used in the military industry to create digital equipment. During that period, Stark Group held new product launches every day. For 1 month in a row, Tony advanced the progress of civilian digital equipment technology, which for some reason lagged far behind the rest of the world by at least 10 years. It seemed as if the whole world switched from flip phones to smartphones overnight. Even holographic projections are beginning to appear on the market. Leon still remembered that Obadiah had complained at that time, saying that Tony was exhausting the resources and that good techniques should be released bit by bit so that more benefits could be harvested. Well, modern technology is like this, it explodes all of a sudden, it's weird. He took a sip of coffee to hide his embarrassment. Natasha gave him a resentful look and said, "If Stark Electronics Technology Company could have been established half a year later, I might have been able to successfully break away from or even destroy the Red House." "You're right." Leon continued to drink his coffee. "Although it doesn't make sense, it's all Tony's fault. Why would he build a subsidiary company for no reason? It turns out that it's not the world that's wrong. It was the flapping of his butterfly wings that created a tornado in Hungary. The butterfly effect can actually affect the timeline." Leon was speechless, and he didn't know why no one had come to him even though the timeline had changed so much. Not only will the Time Management Bureau not come, but Ancient One won't come either. This left him very confused. However, at present, this world should still be the movie universe he is familiar with. All I can say is that everything will be fine as long as it's not a comic book universe. What happened next? He continued to ask. After my plan to defect was exposed, I was soon besieged by other widows and taken back to the Red House. After being imprisoned for 6 months, the Red House used chemicals to control me. I have absolutely no choice. Over the past year or so, although I still retain my own thoughts, I have multiple consciousnesses and I don't know which part is really me. Natasha said this, quietly turned her cheek away, and wiped her face with her back to Leon. In the past 10 months, more people have died at my hands than in the past 10 years. She continued, "There are little boys who can't walk yet. There are pregnant mothers, and there are powerful people. To this day, my hands are covered in blood." Natasha lowered her head, making it impossible to see her expression. Leon subconsciously wanted to say something comforting, but it was clear that comfort was not what Natasha needed. She has a stronger heart than most people. But the more this happened, the more painful it became when her conscience condemned her. In fact, if Leon hadn't asked for this information as compensation to Natasha, there was no way Natasha would reveal her past, even in the movies, to her fellow Avengers whom she regarded as family. She also never mentioned her experience in the Red House. That was the deepest wound in her heart, compared to tearing open these dusty wounds. In fact, she would rather Leon's compensation was tit for tat, even if it meant breaking her limbs. "So what are you going to do next?" Leon waved his hand and asked Benben to refill Natasha's coffee. "Thank you." Natasha thanked Benben and then looked at Leon. "I would like your help if I can. I don't mean to drag you into this endless war, but could you please help me make some inhibitors?" Natasha said apprehensively, "Or maybe it's the formula that will allow me to save other people. I will definitely find a way to compensate you for your efforts." Leon stroked his chin and said, "The matter of the inhibitor is simple, but you seem to be planning to rescue a group of widows first, gather enough manpower, and then declare war on the Red House." To be honest, he hoped that someone would cause trouble for the Red House. After all, Tony had just exposed his Iron Man armor, and the other party dared to send Black Widow to sneak into his house and kidnap him. If he waited until tomorrow, Tony would hold a press conference and announce to the world that he is Iron Man. I don't know what the Red House will do next. For this force that is seeking death, Lion's choice is to prevent it from seeing tomorrow's sunrise. However, it just so happened that Natasha also wanted to destroy the Red House, which was a coincidence, and Leon didn't mind going with the flow. Natasha stood up straight. Yes, that's my plan, Mr. Stark, please believe me. I will just call me Leon. You've said so much from your heart. We should be considered friends. Leon interrupted. Natasha paused and nodded. Leon, well, listen to me first. Leon tapped the table with his fingers. Your idea is good, but it's not easy to implement. He said, first you lose contact, then once you start to act, other widows will also lose contact, and the Red House will react very quickly, and then you will be in a very bad situation. Natasha shook her head slowly. I know, but I have to do it. This is my responsibility. Responsibility, Leon thought for a moment. Now that you mention it, I have an idea, a win-win-win idea. All right, legends, that's it for today. Like, subscribe, and I'll meet you in the next audiobook.